Councillors, it's now 4:30, so I will declare this meeting open, and I will start with acknowledgement of country. And by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet on today, I humbly pay my respects to the people of the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal nations for their past, future and emerging elders. And there's a bit of housekeeping for everybody in this room. If you're asked to evacuate, the emergency procedure is to exit via the door leading out of the building directly outside the council chambers and proceed to the footpath opposite the council chambers and await further instructions. Live streaming, recording and publishing of council meetings. This council meeting is being streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with Council's live streaming in council meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. The Chair and or the General Manager have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. And attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. Now, next we have attendance apologies, and we have one apology today from Councillor Stadmiller. So could I have a mover to accept this? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Pullman. You got those? Those in favour? I think it was unanimous. Thank you. All right. The second on our list is we have a late report today. That's 12/23, 22/27 BOOROWA alcohol-free zone suspension request for the BOOROWA Hotel. I need a mover and a seconder once more. Thank you, Councillor Ingram, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Piper. All those in favour? Thank you. That report has been accepted, and now we will move on to the public forum. And today in the public forum we have 3 speakers. The first one is for 1214, 2218, TA subdivision 3 lots at 25 BATINICHS Road, Young, and speaking for the recommendation, Megan Hardman. Thank you, Megan.
Madam Mayor, councillors and senior staff, my name is Megan Hardman and I'm the owner applicant for development application 2022/0032. As a pecuniary interest matter, I firstly declare that I am a staff member of Hilltops. However, I work in the HR department and have had no involvement with or anything to do with the assessment of this process. I even chose an external development assistance company to assist with this application. Before you is the professional report and recommendation from the planning staff on my application. I confirm from my reading that after a lengthy and detailed process, the professional staff have assessed and reviewed all matters, including the submissions from the notification period, and after evaluation, found all matters to be worthy of approval. The report clearly evaluates all submissions, policy, legislation and issues and finds that has to come before council for 2 matters of decision only, those being listed in the first paragraph of the report. 1, allotments, proportions and sewer disposal. Were it not for the 2018 changes to the Development Control Plan, These matters would have been staff merit assessed and the subdivision would presently be approved already. As is also listed in the report, sufficient acceptable solutions have been put forward in terms of amenity and alternate council policy compliance, such that these 2 points do meet an acceptable alternate solution to the planning department in achieving the performance standard required by that part of the DCP. This is why the planning department has recommended approval. In this regard, on the two issues only that are before council is issue 1, lot 1 frontage and portion. Proposed lot 1 is a generous 50 metre wide, as I have either an option for sale and amalgamation with the closer neighbour, yet opting away from this, I will still have an allotment with ample land existing in spite of the frontage width for a dwelling meeting this zone's setbacks for a good dwelling, and still affording a comfortable house with good northerly aspects and well away from existing and prospective development in the area. The lot also affords a good horse paddock or land for an urban fringe series of uses without harm or foul to any neighbour, current or future. Issue 2, effluent management. Whilst the policy states connection to water and sewer is desirable, water is already connected to the allotment. This isn't an RL from the reservoir. That good supply and pressure exists within the area. Sewer is variously 400 metres or 1 kilometre away, depending on which part of the report you read, yet these are uphill across creek lines and it will be a long time until this may be available in this locality.
Megan, you have about 2 minutes left.
My subdivision design has taken this on board and the allotments exceed council's on-site sewerage management plan policy and the New South Wales Government Public Health Guideline of 1 hectare per allotment, which enables the fullest range of OSM systems to be designed and to be site suitable to not cause nuisance and issue. As I have met one of the DCP complications by complying with the alternate council policy in subdivision design sizing, this matter is answered. I note the report refers to an attachment 2, however this hasn't been included, but paraphrased in response issue by issue. The 2 submissions were received, and as you may well hear from them today, however the bulk of their questions weren't related to my subdivision. They were indeed questions aimed at the background LEP environment on later permissibility matters for houses as may be built or service standards for roads and utilities not impacted by a net 2 lot or potential 1 lot increase. The proposed subdivision is fair, reasonable and has minimal impact on the locality. It meets the minimum lot size allowed for by the young LEP and all of the DCP issues have been addressed.
20 seconds left.
In the statement of environment effects provided either by an acceptable solution or by meeting other council policy. As the staff have assessed this and see that it be fair that all matters are considered, so too should council respect their own staff's professional input and move this for approval. May I thank council for their indulgence for allowing me to speak this afternoon.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
A speaker against, and we have Jontine Soltek tonight.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jontine. I run a equine only practice on Isaacs Road, diagonally opposite the proposed development. And I just wanted to say a massive thank you for letting me know that I was allowed to speak at this. I don't know, those of you who were on council last term, there was a bit of a debacle in that the development next door to me got pushed through and I was not notified and never received a letter regarding the fact that I could actually present to council. So I really, really appreciate this. So I guess my main concern was the fact that I think Block 1, I presume you've all had a look at it, has a road frontage of 50 metres. The plan as it stands says it has to have a minimum of 90 metres, And I don't know, but 50 metres to me is not just 85 or 70. I think that's acceptable. But if you've got a plan that says that must have a minimum road frontage of 90 and you pass something that's 50, which is marginally over 50% of that, I think what is the point of having guidelines? That is number one. And number two, I have tried to find this information, but I was aware, I thought that the newer LEP, which I accept has not been ratified yet, was to change that zoning, that area to 5 acres rather than 2.5 acres. Now, I may have that wrong. And so I feel that if we're approving something now that's going even less than what has already been deemed unsustainable and changed, I think that that is not in the area's best interest. The people that live in that area, in that environ, have moved there because they like a sort of a peaceful, more quieter life. It's now being, I think, overdeveloped. I run an equine-only practice because I was not allowed to have a shop front. I was not allowed to house cats and dogs overnight. I can also not access the information that says, can I change that now to a mixed practice? Because of the overdevelopment of the area and the nature of my business, I breed somewhere between 180 and 200 mares a year and foal down 40 mares. It's quite noise sensitive, and some of those mares are exceedingly valuable. And so for me to run a business there and risk, I guess, all this development with people's dogs potentially, it probably makes my business unviable. And I have run that business and employed a small number of staff, but have run that business successfully for 15 years now, and have a lot of clients that come from around the area and bring their business to Young while they're visiting me. So I guess my main thing is that I think that the overdevelopment of the area is a major concern, but I don't see that we should, for one person's financial gain, change the plan that says 90 metres of minimum road. I just don't understand how. Yeah, I just feel that that is unfitting with the area and unfair.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonty. We have another speaker tonight, and that's for the late report, 12/23, 22, 27, BOOROWA alcohol-free zone suspension request, the BOOROWA Hotel. Michael Ward.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, councillors and Hilltop staff. The federal government announced an alfresco dining initiative in October 21, and they gave direction to fast track that. And on the 30th of May, we received our alfresco dining approval, and we thank Hilltops for granting us that. We also wanted our alfresco diners to enjoy a glass of beer or a wine with their meal. And I guess there's already a precedent on Marsden Street, which is the same street we're on. There is already a business that does alfresco dining with alcohol. They're just marginally outside the alcohol-free zone. So they have unencumbered alfresco dining with alcohol. Just as a point of note, in reading the establishment of the alcohol-free zones in BOOROWA, the ordinary council meeting, 24th of November 21, it states that under section 644A of the Local Government Act, that the council is required to give 30 days notice to both the New South Wales Police and also liquor licensees within that, within those zones, seeking comment. I just want to make it clear the BOOROWA Hotel was never approached to give opinion on that or to make comment. I guess indirectly that can bring into question the legality of the existing alcohol-free zones for not following due process. As a business, we hold no discord with the current alcohol-free zone. There's also mention within that 24th of November council meeting that the council may suspend the declaration of for special events, obviously like WOOLFEST, and it also mentions special circumstances, and I guess that's exactly what al fresco dining is. It's a special circumstance. There are 3 points that I'd like you to consider, or we think are significant for promoting the exemption of the alcohol-free zone for us. It's in line with the New South Wales government promoted al fresco dining policy. The BOOROWA Business Chamber, along with other local businesses, have certainly supported us in this initiative. And more importantly and finally, in Hilltops granting us this exemption to the alcohol-free zone, you must remember the liquor licensing laws are comprehensive and cover, without exception, the management of alcohol within that al fresco dining area, with all usage of alcohol. So although you grant it, we're still under very strict laws in the management of it. So in speaking of this, I probably would like to urge significantly Hilltops Council to approve our request. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you. That covers all the speakers in the public forum. So we'll go back to our agenda. And the next one, if you'd all be upstanding for our sympathy expressions. We remember Ronald Hazel, Edward Martin, Raymond Puttock, Vivian Thompson, Brian Gilmore, Kathleen Tomomichael, Errol Burke, Carolyn Croak, Paul Powderly, Russell Price, Barry O'Leary, David Edis, Selwyn Dorr, Josephine Snelling, Norman Davis, Peter Norton, Beryl Street and Roy Levitt. Thank you, everybody. And I have just been reminded that the attendance, we have one apology tonight from Councillor Stadmiller, and I would like a mover to move the motion to accept this apology. Thank you. We have done it. There you are. Our apologies. All right. The next, confirmation of minutes, and 6/1/2201, confirmation of minutes for the Hilltops Council Extraordinary Meeting. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder. Thank you. Councillor Hewson, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And the next one, we have confirmation of minutes for the Hilltops Council Ordinary Meeting on the 25th of May. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Flannery, and seconded Councillor Piper. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. The next, any disclosures of interest today?
Madam Mayor, I don't think it's significant in any way, but there's an item there, a couple of items in regarding to subdivisions, and I believe with item 12.13.22.17 that one of the objectors may be a client of one of my companies. While only a small customer, very valuable. So I don't think I have any concerns in relation to pecuniary interest, but I'd like to have that known. And in relation to the DA that was just spoken to and against from the floor, I used to adjust horses on the said property that is now up for subdivision. And on the other hand, I've been a long-term client of Yon Team.
Yes, Councillor Ingram, do you intend to vote?
I do.
You do. Thank you.
I'm not taking the easy way out, no.
Thank you. All right, there isn't a mayoral minute today. The next one, mayoral reports. It's as in the paper. Do I have a mover to accept the mayoral? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. A seconder? Thank you. Councillor Hewson. And the next one, if we go on to councillor reports. Page 28. Oh, pardon me, we haven't voted. My apologies. I'm under a bit of stress at the moment, so my apologies. And I thank you for your cooperation. All those in favour? Thank you. Nobody against? Okay, we're moving on to 10. Councillor reports. Councillor Armstrong, do you have anything to add to your reports?
As reported, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd?
I also attended the resilience workshop today.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick? Fitzgerald, pardon me.
Nothing further to add to that.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman?
I also attended on the 21st of June, the HWAG meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Mackie?
No, nothing more to add.
Thank you. Councillor Piper?
No, nothing more.
Councillor Ingram?
Meetings as minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 8th of June, Councillor briefing, 12th of June, the GALONG workshop for the Harden Concerns Community Workshop. I attended another meeting at GALONG, and lost my day to after 17th, and other meetings at meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hewson?
Councillor Hewson,
the general meeting and also the general manager's performance discussion with the mayor.
Next we have the community recognition scheme. Do we have anybody for the community recognition scheme? Councillor Flannery, I think you do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'd like to make special mention of Pat Walsh. Pat Walsh has been a long-term resident of Harden, and recently, I'll find the date if I can, but recently, early this month, Pat was awarded the New South Wales Rugby League Association referee's honour of having a trophy named. So the trophy for the referee of the year is to be named after Pat Walsh, which I don't think you can get anything more significant than that, especially when you're still alive. Normally it happens after you've long passed. So very special mention to Pat. He's put a lot of time and effort into junior league, senior league, and then was an employee of Country Rugby League and travelled far and wide. He's very passionate about it, and I think his efforts have been shown through this recognition.
I'd just like to endorse those comments made by Councillor Flannery. It's a great honour for Pat, and he's certainly put in, contributed enormously to the sporting life of our Hilltops region. So thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ingram, and a second, Councillor Piper. All those in favour? Thank you. And councillors, once again, I apologise. We need to go back to the reports because I have a feeling that we didn't accept the reports. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. And seconder, Councillor Hewson. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, before we move on, we've had speakers for two of the items tonight. I'm looking for that a motion be passed that we actually move those items. The one for 12, 14, 22, 18, the subdivision at Batinichs Road Young, and also the late report 12, 23, 22, 27, that we move those forward. Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? Thank you. So if we move on to those, the first one we will deal with is the 12, 14, 22, 18, the subdivision at 25 Batinichs Road Young.
I'll move with a question, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question to the Director. Would it not have been an option to put in almost a battle axe entrance to what will be known as Lot 1? And if so, why was that not considered?
Through the Mayor, the proposal as submitted was assessed, and based on what was provided and an assessment of that, there was no need to consider any further variations to the arrangement for the lots. So that wasn't looked into in any detail.
If a battle axe entrance were put in that ran down the edge of Batinichs Road, though, it would possibly remove the issue of not being compliant with the 90 metres. Is that correct?
First, I just want to confirm exactly the plan out, and we'll have a look and go through it with you because I need to make sure what you're referring to. So we'll just get that there first. 50. Okay, so you're saying along the western edge or the eastern edge there? Let's have a look.
Well, along where it's got proposed entrance for Lot 2, if that became a battle axe entrance down along that fence line to Lot 1, wouldn't that remove the issue?
Potentially. The thing is, it gets back to what the actual issue is and the reason for that minimum setback. Oh, no, sorry, minimum frontage. The minimum frontage is set up that way to allow for further subdivision if it was to occur based on the long-term planning for the area. But it's clear from both the current young LEP, the draft LEP, and the local strategic planning statement that due to a range of factors in that area, there will not be any further subdivision planned for that area. So in a way, the layout requirements in the DCP are no longer as relevant as they used to be. And if you consider them against strategic merit, then you can easily justify them being relaxed down to 50 metres.
Any other questions? Councillor Piper.
This, as at the moment, I'm getting a lot of people in BOOROWA refer to me to bring it to council about curb and guttering, and is that necessary on this estate?
No, you're talking about the RU5 zone here. The areas in BOOROWA you're talking about would be in the R1 zone, and that would be consistent with the standard policy of council over the years to have that provided as part of a subdivision.
Thank you. Any more questions? Do I have a mover? It has moved. Pardon me, I do apologise tonight. All right, I will put it to the vote. Those in favour of accept.
So this is a on that paper. So
yep.
All those in favour.
You
Councillor Ingram, Councillor Thorne, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Councillor Mack.
Those against? Councillor Armstrong. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move to the late report, 1223, 2227, BOOROWA alcohol-free zone suspension request. And do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Piper. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dodd. Councillor Piper, would you like to make any comments?
I I just all in favour of it because we've had it there when we had our party night. We had it and there was no hassles. He's gone through a very, very good presentation if you see it. And I just think it'll be a good little thing for BOOROWA.
Thank you. Any other comments? Nobody speaking against it? Then I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Yeah.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Righto, we go back now to the normal progression of business and 12 General Manager's Report, 12.1, the Councillor Remuneration, 2022-23. General Manager, do you wish to speak to this report at all?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Look, these.
I think we need. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder, Councillor Dodd. Thank you, General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have applied. The report before you is to fix the annual fee for the maximum fee as prescribed. Given its nature, it would appear to be a modest fee. However, we are in your hands. We have followed the advice of the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal that they've determined that up to an increase of 2% per annum in the minimum maximum fees be applied. Now in your hands.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Fitzgerald.
I think it just states quite clearly what's needed. It's a very minimal fee. I think it's appropriate. I would support it.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd, seconder, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, in support. I feel that we need to be encouraging people to nominate to be on council, and I think it's important that this is a fairly minimal fee, but it is still a recognition of the work that councillors put in, and if we want people to step up, then we need to be offering a reasonable remuneration.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any speakers against? If that's not the case, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on. Pardon me. We'll move on to 12.2, 2206, the councillor committee structure and councillor representation, and that's.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, with your indulgence, there was a typographical error in the recommendation. Is that it's received and note the report, not receive and not note the report, because that would be senseless. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And a seconder? Councillor Foreman. All right, Councillor Ingram, would you like to make any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to thank staff bringing this forward. This has been ongoing for some considerable time, and it needed to be addressed for a number of reasons, and congratulate them on the way they've gone about this. For far too long, there's been too many community groups, if you like, classified as 3, 5, 6 in different committees, and have staff attached to them, and senior staff attend to take minutes at these community meetings, and that's not what senior staff are here for. So I'm very pleased to see that while we encourage any community group to have input to council, having senior staff at the council level attend those meetings isn't pertinent to what council's about. So I commend staff on the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Do we have, oh, pardon me, Councillor Armstrong.
Question, sorry, Madam Mayor. Yes. The General Manager, I note one of the recommendations is to to endorse the decision to institute revised delegations of authority. Two parts of the question. Who's made that decision? My understanding of Section 371 is only council can do those delegations, and I don't believe council has made a decision in regard to those at all. Can we see the delegations, please? Because I'm not seeing delegations that relate to the actions of council.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll pass to the Chief Financial Officer.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. At the moment, what we're recommending as a result of the legal advice that we've received, that you are correct, that only council can provide delegation to various committees, and in particular the Section 355 committees, and that goes as far as funding, following codes of conduct, procurement practice, etc. The two VPAs have been left in the Section 355 at this stage, but not for future committees, on the basis that it will take some time, speaking with the Director of Planning, to actually unravel those existing agreements. However, you are right, Council then needs to obviously determine the delegations that are provided to the Section 355 committee. In addition, I then have to supply a list of those committees to our insurer, who wishes to also be aware of those Section 355 committees and the delegated powers that they have. So you're right, in the report we're basically highlighting that we would like to meet with those committees, probably the General Manager, myself and a Council representative, to discuss terms of reference and where delegated power may be required, and then we would have to come back to Council with a report.
Councillor Armstrong, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, I'd suggest that the recommendation, I thank the CFO for his comments there, and I'd recommend that the recommendation needs to be revised in that we're not endorsing any decision because we haven't made a decision in that regard, but what we are doing is in fact undertaking a review of delegations.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Armstrong.
So through Madam Mayor, the changing of the wording for C, if this would meet your observation, Councillor Armstrong, undertake a review of the delegations of authority for Section 355 committees, etc.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The review of delegations. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Councillors, would you like to see that on screen for...
You want me to read it?
Or is reading of enough for the councillors, particularly those councillors zooming in? Councillor Mackie, are you satisfied with that change? Undertake a review of delegations of authority, etc.
Councillor Mackie, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I've just written that down as you stated, Anthony.
Oh, thank you. Okay, in your hands.
So we have in front of...
I'm just sorry, just one quick procedural question. Councillors Ingram and Forum happy with that amendment to the resolution? Yes and yes. Thank you. I believe there might have been another question from Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, just a question about on page 52 in the Local Traffic Committee. I'm just having difficulty reading through the documents. I'd like some advice and assistance. At the Local Traffic Committee, the last sentence says Council has a separate Section 355 Traffic Advisory Committee. I can't seem to see that anywhere looking through the documents. Have I missed something?
No, we actually do not have separate committees. There's an error in the report.
Correct pickup.
Thank you. So we just take that.
It will be corrected.
Yeah, we just take that out.
Okay, so...
Madam Mayor? On page 52, on Section 355 committees, I'm elected as a council representative for the Rye Park, but I don't believe there's been a vote or anything for the Serpico voluntary, and I'm listed as a councillor.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. That is the Silvelco voluntary planning agreement refers to the Galong one.
Yeah, and it has moved.
And
It is yet to be determined.
okay, thank you. So you can actually, in your hands, councillors who would be voting for representation on that committee.
I'll nominate, but can I just ask a question either of the CFO or the General Manager in relation to, I'm not too sure what the situation is with the villages in the former Young and BOOROWA shires, but certainly Harden Shire, Jugiong, Galong and Wombat were provided with sums of money to do general maintenance around the town. Is that money still going to be forthcoming, or will council go back and overtake those works if there's not a VPA, a 355 process?
Through you, Madam Mayor, any monies under the criteria of a Section 355 committee, it must be under the control of council, but certainly the intention of this resolution is that money is quarantined to those groups because it's been separately recorded, and we have a discussion with those groups as into the processes, terms of reference, etc., through those groups. So it's a discussion. What we're asking, the intent of the resolution tonight is to ask your a resolution to go forward and resolve these multiple areas in consultation with the group. We couldn't unilaterally take money away, and the funding model of those we will have to bring back to you because there have been, let us say, various iterations of funding given to these bodies that may not have been appropriately documented. We need to bring those back to you for a clear resolution of council on how they may be funded, what the community group would like to do, whether or not they want to take on the duties or not. It is a process that we need to undertake.
I'd like to be somewhat clear for no other reason than I don't know about the other villages, but certainly my view would be at Galong, they're performing works beyond at a far cheaper rate than would be the case if council did them, because most of it's voluntary. So if we're going to, by virtue of this resolution, overtake those jobs, it's going to have a budgetary impact on council.
That must be a discussion with those groups, which is why we've asked to have that discussion with the groups, as in.
It's not listed as having a financial impact.
Well, we don't know what the financial impact is as yet because we haven't had that discussion, councillor.
Well, you won't know unless you have a view that it can no longer be funded because of changes by virtue of removing the 355 status. If you have a view that it's therefore not permissible any longer, it needs to be considered as a budgetary impact.
So the legal advice we have is that council should control Section 355 committees, right down to the delegations level, procurement level, and funding. So I think what the General Manager is saying is we obviously need to look at the existing funding that those bodies have, but in future, if they were to be Section 355 committees, they'd have to be very carefully controlled based on legal advice by council.
There is also the avenue, and again, this is a discussion with the community groups, as in what form of memorandum of understanding we could enter into these groups, and again, that would have to be sanctioned by council on how to resolve that. Councillor Armstrong, you have a question.
Two issues, I guess. The first one I'd like to point out is the Australia Day Section 355 committee hasn't existed since formation of Hilltops, so you're effectively creating one that's potentially redundant. And secondly, just following on from Councillor Flannery's comments there, I'm aware of a number of village progress associations that are actually 355 committees with delegations under Section 371, allowing for the care, control and management of council assets. I don't see anywhere in this document that style delegation, or that's even reference to the care, control and management of the council assets.
Councillor, you've dropped out. Councillor Armstrong, you've come back in.
I'm just wondering what assurance those village associations have in regard to continuing on with the great work that they do.
Yes, Councillor Armstrong, so that's an issue. The legal advice is that if funding is provided to a Section 355 committee on behalf of council, council needs to control that funding and actually direct or approve what activities the Section 355 committee undertakes. So I think what the General Manager was saying, those are the things that are up for discussion. The other issue then is that if they're a Section 355 committee and under that auspice, they then would retain council's insurance cover. And that is the reason the insurer statewide has indicated or instructed us that obviously we need to be cautious about the level of delegation specifically that Section 355 committees have.
Thank you for that. Just through you, Madam Mayor, the column titled Committee Purpose and Proposed Changes in the purple border, it would then appear to me that those purposes and proposed changes are of a rather generic nature and are not specific to locations. Would that be the case?
I think the intention is that we will then revisit the categorisation of the various committees based on those discussions, so that we then go around and meet with those committees and actually have an understanding of the roles they perform, the activities they undertake.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It gives me a better understanding of the report, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Are there any further questions? All right, we'll put it. How about number D? Appoint councillors to committees as nominated.
I think the discussion for the committees, there must be a resolution to confirm the Section 355 roles. The Audit and Risk Improvement Committee has already been sanctioned, as has the local traffic committee, but it does need a resolution on the Section 355 committees. And the councillor representative for the other committees, I think it prudent to have that discussion with the community groups and then bring back to you and what your interests are into those.
So, Mr. General Manager, just so I'm clear on it, tonight are we or are we not appointing the councillors to committees as nominated?
You can appoint to nominate to the advisory committees if you wish. There's nothing stopping you. It's a process. Happy to have you as part of. Happy to have councillors along as part of that discussion with the community groups. So.
I think we should, albeit laborious. I think the committees have been wanting to know who council representatives are. We're now nearly 10 months into this council, and a lot of them are saying, "Who's our representative?"
Good start.
Yes, I agree with you, Councillor Flannery.
So we'll start with.
So let's go through them. First of all, the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and yes, thank you, Councillor Hewson. Do we have anybody else who would be happy to go on that?
Could I just say that, so if we do nominate ourselves for, these positions on these, we actually don't know what the structure is yet, though, do we? Until after we've gone out and, do you know what I'm saying? We don't actually know what we're on.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I believe Councillor Flannery's point is the pertinent point here is if you nominate, you are then nominated to be a person, a councillor that someone can contact you for, and once we go through the process, you can leave that group if you don't feel it fits your skill set or otherwise. I think Councillor Flannery's point is very valid.
That explain it, Councillor Foreman? Okay. Righto. The BOOROWA Showground Advisory Committee.
I'm happy. Oh. Yeah, I'm happy.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mackie.
And I'll nominate Piper as an alternative if Mackie can't make meetings, which is a pertinent thing to do. You know, we should do it all through where it's.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Piper? Thank you.
Based on that, Madam Mayor, an alternate to Councillor Hewson for the Aboriginal Advisory Committee. Do we have a nomination for that? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Councillor Fitzgerald. That does not exclude either. If
and certainly, councillors, it's not a first and a second. If some more councillors are interested in the group, there can be more nominations for each of the groups if councillors are so interested. It's just from a point of view, one councillor, one alternative. I do note there are some 20 committees. So
we better get cracking, that's what
yes.
You're saying, isn't it?
I just think you just spread yourself as far as you can.
All right, let's look at the Hilltops Wellbeing Action Group.
I'll nominate Councillor Stadmiller.
Councillor Stadmiller isn't here to answer that.
That's when you get. That's when you end up on a lot of committees. Very dangerous not to turn up at meetings.
Councillor Foreman.
I'm actually happy to jump on that.
Thank you, Councillor Foreman. And an alternative? I don't mind going as an alternative. So, the Regional Access Advisory Committee.
Stadmiller.
All right, serious. Councillor Stadmiller? No, we can't do that, I don't think, because he can't answer.
Just in relation to the councillor who is absent, should Councillor Stadmiller wish to be part of any of these advisory committees, I'm sure he can nominate. So
surely he's not watching, otherwise he'd be attending, Mr. General Manager.
He's an apology, Councillor Ingram. Regional Access Advisory Committee.
Do we have any? Well, we might have to leave that for the moment, and let's move on.
Yeah, there are no nominations. There are no nominations.
Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
I'm happy to represent that council on that committee.
Thank you.
Even though I'm not in the council chambers.
Thank you. Oh, but you are part of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
You're welcome.
We move on. We have the Regional Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee. Councillor, okay. Councillor Fitzgerald. And once again, I have quite a bit to do with that. I'm happy to be an alternative. We'll go on to the next one, the Regional Economic Development Advisory Committee. Okay.
I might take that one on.
Councillor Foreman, and do we have an alternative? Okay. Councillor Hewson has put up his hand. Yes. And Councillor Armstrong.
Madam Mayor, just a question.
Yes.
By allocating councillors to all this in the absence of Councillor Stadmiller, he's effectively missed that opportunity. I don't think that's the right thing to do for him. Can I suggest that Councillor Stadmiller may be an alternative for some of these?
An alternative?
Yes. I mean,
yes, and I would like to think that Councillor Stadmiller will be given the opportunity to become an alternative. Is that a possibility? Yes. I think we'll certainly advise him and ask for his input into any committees that he'd like to be part of. Thanks, Councillor.
Can I suggest that if we make him an alternative for the remainder of the committees, and if he doesn't want to be an alternative, he'll have that opportunity to back out of it?
I think I prefer that we would ask, actually, those that he would like to join. Thank you. The next one is the Regional Environmental Initiatives Advisory Committee. Councillor Hewson and Councillor Dodd. Thank you. The next one, Regional Tourism Advisory Committee. Councillor Foreman, you're going to be on every second committee, I think. And, okay, Councillor Fitzgerald. The Young Sports Advisory Committee.
With, should we change this to the Hilltops? I don't actually know what the Young Sports Advisory Committee specifically do, but I do read the minutes. But is it worthwhile broadening the net, or would that cause too much of an issue for that actual committee?
Through Madam Mayor, sorry, Councillor Ingram.
Having served on that advisory committee for a number of years, it is really about the grounds and the amenities and everything in the Young area. So, yeah. So.
Yes, and the sporting groups in Young. Yeah. Am I getting the vibe, Councillor Ingram, that you would like to stay on that committee?
I just mentioned that I spent several years on it, Madam Mayor. Your turn, Madam Mayor.
On the advisory committee, anybody else? Then I am happy, actually, to join that committee. And I think as Mayor, I can join any committee, can't I? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. The next one, we have the Brewery Progress Association. Do we have anybody who is happy to go on that?
I'll go on the Brewery Progress.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And do we have an alternate? If Councillor Ingram can't be there? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. The next one, Wombat Progress Association. Once again, all right, Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Hewson. Thank you, gentlemen. The next one, the Jigong Advancement Group.
I will.
Councillor Flannery.
Who's going to join me if I take this one on, Tony?
I'll go with you.
Okay,
there you go.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it will be an excellent combination. Councillor Foreman and Councillor Flannery. The Maringo Progress Association. He was on. Thank you, Councillor Dodd. And I'm happy
to back up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Councillor Mackie. Alternate. We have the Galong Progress Association. Councillor Flannery. And do we have an alternate?
I will back up Tony as a return of favour.
All right, return favour. That's what I call collaboration, working together. Councillor Foreman. And Australia Day Committee, the Australia Day in BOOROWA. Okay, Councillor Piper, thank you for that. And Councillor Mackie, thank you. Harden, Australia Day.
Now the nominations all the way down.
And I think I will ask if Councillor Stadmiller would be interested too. The Young Australia Day, I'm happy to be on that. Councillor Flannery. And do I have a support team? Yeah. Councillor Foreman, thank you. And we have the BOOROWA Irish Wool Festival. The committee, Councillor Mackie and Councillor Piper, thank you. And the Harden Kite Festival, Councillor Flannery and Councillor Fitzgerald, thank you. And the Young National Cherry Festival Committee, Councillor Foreman, your hands on the buzzer, and Councillor Houston.
And I'm already on that, so that's fine.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Houston, would you like to be ours with the backup? Thank you.
No, Tony can come along also.
Yes, if he takes the main role, because you're already on the committee.
Just a reminder, councillors, that these committees, these are councillors that are representative and main vote, however, what structure it is. However, all councillors are able to attend all of these meetings in any case, notwithstanding you may not be the representatives. Thank you.
Now, okay, I don't think we don't need those. The subcommittees, I don't think we need those. That's it.
Well, who's on the asset management committee? There used to be one. And
here we go.
Armstrong and myself.
Accepted.
Yep. Armstrong
and Flannery.
Are there any other councillors who nominate?
No? I'd like to be on that too.
Okay, Councillor Rolls.
I'll step off that committee then.
Okay. Okay, so it's Armstrong, Flannery and Rolls.
Thank you. And
Financial
then
assistance.
Financial assistance.
We have already resolved that.
We have. And I think that is Armstrong, Ingram and Foreman and Stagmiller. The performance review panel. That's all of council. We have that later in the year, don't we? So we don't have to. And the last one.
Well, through Madam Mayor, the performance review panel has just had a discussion with the mayor, the deputy mayor, and one councillor, which was Councillor Hewson. That's the nature. That is the panel. All councillors have input to that through the process. However, the panel itself, were those three councillors,
should be elected by councillors.
And then it's in your hands, councillors.
I think that was an informal one that we had last time. In the past, maybe Councillor Armstrong or Ingram, we did actually elect, didn't we, at the meeting, those who would take the findings of the council.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So can we determine that to be just later on?
Yeah, we determine later. Yep.
The policy development and review.
Through you, Madam Mayor, with the subcommittee with policy development and review, we are reviewing all of the policies and we'll bring all of the policies back to council. We have put this committee back on because of it had existed. I'm in your hands, councillors, whether or not you believe a functioning subcommittee is appropriate, or we bring the policies back as they come through the process. In your hands, whether you want a subcommittee or not.
Councillors. Councillor Ingram.
Myself and the former Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wallace, were on that subcommittee once before, and it didn't really work. We got a policy hours, sometimes, maybe a day before the committee, the council was to meet to talk about it and decide on it, so it just failed. So I just don't see the sense in it. At the moment, looking at some of the policy reviews we're looking at now, there definitely needs to be some work done, but I just don't know how you're going to go about it.
So, Councillor Ingram, you're suggesting that it come back to the full council?
Yes, I am.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of the committee was to provide the first review of policy. It became patently obvious during the last term of council that policies presented in the business paper received a poor review, and there was little councillor input. That was the reason it was an attempt to have this first review process to come back to councillors through the committee. Now, if that's not working, then the committee's entirely redundant.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Happy to take it off. Take it off.
Would council, I'm in your hands, councillors, too. Do we remove that, actually?
Remove
As
them.
it has just been removed. Am I right in thinking? Yes, it has been. Okay. Let's go on to external committees. There's a Blaney to Mondrel rail line. I think we had one councillor on that before, last time. I don't know how often it met. Not very often, I don't think, did it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Blaney-Doroni rail line actually inquired of us who is the council representative, although we may see.
I mean, that's a state development project, so I think it's the mayor.
Okay, the mayor accepts. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. The next one,
It's
CRJO.
yourself, it's you.
Yes. The Central West, Centrop,
Yeah.
that's country mayors. The flood risk. Okay, let's go down to number 6, Freight Productivity Group. Do we have any councillors who are interested in this forum? How often do they meet? Do you know?
How often do we know how often the Freight Productivity Group meets? I've not been aware of any meeting.
No.
I mean, I think Mike Tuesday was on this for
Yes.
that group. I don't know how often they met or what they did.
No.
There used to be a group, and that's correct. They used to run through Di and a few people, Chris Holland and them, but I haven't heard of it being called. Yeah, that.
Can we leave that in abeyance?
I think we will remove it for the purpose of tonight, and we'll try to contact those people to see whether we need to bring it back to council.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. The Golden Fields. It's resolved. We've got the Lachlan Regional Transport. Councillor Hewson has put his hand up. And do we have anybody else who'd like to join? You might have to make sure you attend all the meetings, Councillor Hewson. And Policy Advisory Command Team. Okay, I'm on that. Sibelco Liaison Committee and Councillor Flannery. Are you? Thank you. And would you like support if we look for it? Do we have to say who that person is? We do. We don't?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Well,
right.
Well, to have a voting, they must be nominated as an alternate. So, is there an alternate?
Yeah.
Right, Councillor Ingram.
Thank you. The Southern Tablelands Arts Incorporated. Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Is that an alternative, Councillor Flannery?
No. Councillor Dodd is happy to be that. All right. And the Southwest Regional Waste Group Management Group. This is going to be pretty important, I think, in the next little while. Okay, Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Foreman. All right. That's me.
And the wind farms. Now, for the wind farms, we have Rye Park. Through you, Madam Mayor, Rye Park has already been determined as Councillor Hyper. It's Rye Park, yes, for the wind farm, because there's 2 wind farms. So we need a councillor for Copperbella and a councillor for Bango.
Councillor Clark, you're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just need a nomination for Copperbella. A nomination for the wind farm.
Any nominations for the wind farm? They do need somebody, I think.
Councillor
Councillor
Hewson.
Hewson.
Thank you, Councillor Hewson.
You will not be bored.
I will reveal that information
Nearby
at the appropriate juncture, Councillor.
And
The Young Showground Trust, you'll recall there was a councillor on that trust. It is not a trust run by us, an external committee, but it hasn't had a nomination since the resignation from that group. So
do we need one? Or
they have asked for a representative.
I'd be happy to go on that.
So Councillor Rolls. Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. General Manager, through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, we did attempt to set up a weeds committee. Well, actually, we moved at council and it was going to be advertised, but it hasn't been listed. So I said I would go as a nomination. I can't remember who else.
And it was resolved, Councillor, that you were the nominee, and
Yep,
we're going through an
council was
expression
gonna
of interest process.
Right.
I believe that's close to fruition. So that will happen. Thank you.
Where are we up to?
And I did nominate right back, which we missed it, for the Sibelco VPA.
We did record
okay.
that. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. So at this point, I believe, Madam Mayor, it's now to a vote.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for your contribution and commitment. We'll now put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, after that, let's move on to where 12.3. Yep, 2207, alcohol-free zone suspension for the Boorowwa Irish WOOLFEST. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Piper. And a seconder?
Second.
Oh, Councillor Armstrong? Okay, any comments? No? All those in favour? Yes, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We're moving on to 12.4, 2208, Hilltops Council Code of Meeting Practice. Hold on, just let me catch up. Page 64 for anybody who is fluffing around like I am. Okay, here we have. The recommendation is there. I need a mover. Thank you. Councillor Dodd, a seconder. Okay, Councillor Foreman.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to, with the indulgence, actually move the amendment or the removal of Part B. I believe we should be provided with minutes or at least correspondence regarding committee meetings.
Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Madam Mayor, as it was resolved through the previous meeting, the resolution was brief information be recorded and sent to councillors before the next meeting of council. I was unsure of whether that was appropriate or not, and I'll read the question that I posed to the Office of Local Government. My questions are, is there an issue of the recording of the briefings given the intent of such as to have an informal discussion where councillors can ask tough questions, seek further information, comma, etc. 2, if there is no issue, is appropriate that is there an issue or not? If there is no issue, what would be the appropriate level of record, i.e. Councillor X said ABC, would that be appropriate? While discussion included questions on ABC and the response was X, Y, Z. The response from the OLG was, the advice is that the councillor workshops are for information only. There is nothing to record. My view on that is it is inappropriate to do any record of that meeting given they are for information only. That is the advice that I've received, and I cannot accept that section. The way in which we work around that from an operational point of view is I'll work with you on how we discuss that. However, it cannot form part of the code of meeting practice based upon the advice that I received from the OLG. But I'm happy to have discussion with any councillors about what happens at the briefings. They are not secret meetings. They are meetings. They are briefings for councillors to discuss, and I'm happy to debrief councillors who are unable to attend any of those meetings. But I cannot report it in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Where it says remove clause 3.39, it's actually 3.38. It's been renumbered, and so that needs to be reflected in the...
Okay, so the first thing we have to do is actually vote on the amendment. Is that right?
Well, what I'm saying, Madam Mayor, is I cannot accept the amendment because the advice I've received is it's not
okay, thank you. So then we go back to the motion as it is written. Any other comments? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Madam Mayor, what are we voting on? Removing clause 3.39, or as Councillor Dodds pointed out, 3.38? Because I can't find 3.39.
Councillor Armstrong, it was a typographical error. The point is 3.38, which is the removal of that section, as I've discussed. So the recommendation is receive and note the report, remove clause 3.38 as advised by the Office of Local Government, and C, adopt the Code of Meeting Practice as presented with that removal. You need to vote to remove that section.
Okay, Councillor Armstrong? Righto. I will put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Foreman, Fitzgerald, Rolls, Dodd, Hewson, Armstrong, Mackie.
Those against? Thank you. It's carried. Moving on, we're coming to the next one, which is 12.5, 2209, draft Hilltops Council Councillor Expenses and Facilities Policy on page 99, for anybody who wants to know.
Madam Mayor, do you have a pecuniary conflict of interest in this, given the expense that was claimed during the last term of council for $10,000 to attend a director's course in Sydney?
I'm not sure I understand. I did attend a course. It wasn't in Sydney. It was actually run by Snowy Valley, and it was run as a professional development course. We were asked as a council if we would like to take part in that, and a number of us, at least two, showed interest, and the other councillor was not able to come, so I went. I realise, and I think this goes, so as far as I was concerned at that time, there was money in the fund for councillor development, and that's where this was funded from. Personally, I have not gained any private gain from doing that course, although I do like to think that the knowledge I gained has helped me in my voluntary roles in a number of community boards on which I stand. Mea culpa, I know that I said I would give a report. I have not physically given that report. I don't think there was a timeline on it, so I think I can still give that report. But in its place for the moment, if you wish to, for all councillors, and I encourage you all actually to take advantage of the course notes that are available to you in the councillor room. They're available to you. I know the issue was raised as well, that there was the option of doing an examination. I chose not to because at the time, as a new councillor, I just did not have the time or the support, may I say, in that the other councillors there, and can I say that Snowy Valley put all their councillors and all their senior exec through it. Yass Valley actually sent their general manager and also a number of their councillors they had supported in doing that course. It wasn't for personal gain. It was for, if you like, for us to gain a broader understanding and knowledge of the role that we have been asked to take on. And in the spirit of that, that is the reason that I did that course. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that. And that's very good. It's a shame it never came months ago when the question was first asked. But my question in regard to the matter was, I asked the question at the time, did you complete the course or did you do the exam or pass or fail? And you took that on notice and you've answered that tonight. And I thank you for that, because that then clarifies the concerns I had whether you were a member of the Australian Institute of Corporate Directors or whether you were just a graduate of the Australian Institute of Corporate Directors. Because if you happen to be in one particular group there, there's a members fee that's payable, and I was just wondering if that members fee was payable by council, but obviously you've not, because you've never sat the exam.
Councillor Ingram, yes, and I'm
that correct?
It's about the course that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
But I can clarify that I am not a member, and I have never, I have never had any intention.
You can't be because you never did the exam.
Yes.
My next point is, you mentioned that you did it under professional development at a cost of over $10,000 to ratepayers. Why was it at the time when the questions were asked about a report and how successful you were at that course? The other factor was that it was never ever listed. The expense was never ever listed under personal development. It was listed under other. Is there any particular reason for that?
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I have been advised that is out of order.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is out of order, but excuse me, Councillor, this is about the policy put before you. If you want a question on notice in relation to the issues that you're raising, you are quite entitled to do it. However, this is about a policy in relation to council expenses and facilities going forward. What you're talking about is a matter that I would say, in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice, is not relevant to the discussion about what expenses and policy.
Well, my question was, is there a conflict of interest? My question was, is there a conflict of interest?
Thank you, councillors.
My question is in relation to the document and the point we're dealing with, where it says professional development, $1,000 per councillor. So you're telling me that we had a policy that said it was $10,000 a councillor, and now it's been reduced to $1,000. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Ingram, at that time, as a new councillor, my information was that, in fact, I cannot, and perhaps I'm at fault here, that there was actually a specific amount put aside, but all I was told, and I will repeat what I was told, that there was those funds in the councillor development. And since a number or not many other councillors had actually accessed that fund, then those funds were there. And it was, I applied for it. And you can say that in being a new person on the block, the ramifications that you're talking about, I really didn't take into account, that I didn't know. But I would reiterate that it is seen as a course of high order, and other councils have seen it so worthwhile that they have actually put all their councillors through it. And I would like to think that what I learned and what you have the ability to learn, if you wish to go through those folders, it can be of use, because I'm quite passionate, actually, about ongoing professional training for councillors. Not all of us, including myself, have the experience, and for us to serve our community the best way that we can.
Madam Mayor, look, we're not having a general discussion. There was a question I asked you. Did you have a conflict of interest in that you accepted $10,000 and now it's being reduced to $1,000? So should you be making a decision on this? If you don't, at the end of the day, you're the only one that can make that decision. I can give 300 reasons why I don't think you should have taken that money and why it should be repaid. We're not here to debate that. I asked you a question. It's up to you to make that decision.
No, in answer, I do not feel there is a conflict of interest. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in regard to the document that we have in front of us here, I know that there's $500 per councillor annually for ICT expenses. I can't see anywhere in the document where there's provision of an iPad. My question is, what are the $500 ICT expenses, and how was the provision of an iPad noted within the policy?
Thanks for that, Councillor Armstrong. It may relate to the fact that if you've got the internet connected at home, if there's expense related in terms of that you wish to claim in terms of your connection, whether it be with Telstra or another communication provider, I can certainly add the provision of the iPad and other facilities into the document in terms of the fact that that's been provided to councillors.
Thank you. I think the CFO, I did note that towards the end of the document there's a provision to take any equipment back, but there doesn't appear to be any provision to provide it in the first instance. So I suggest that this policy needs to be modified to reflect that prior to council considering it.
Certainly, yeah, we'll do that.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, through you, I'd like to move the motion with an amendment, which it hasn't been moved yet. So items A, B, and I'd like to add to it, if I can get a seconder, that the Mayor provide a detailed report to Council either at the July meeting or by the July meeting on the course that was attended in her capacity as a councillor for a sum of $10,000, or she decided perhaps consider repaying the money. In the absence of a report, consider repaying the money.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second it.
So we vote on the amendment.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm just struggling to see how what happened in the previous term of council with an expenditure, and I'm not making any statement about the questions that are raised. The question that I raise is how is it relevant to the consideration of the council expenses and facilities policy going forward? You're talking about a past
transparency to our community, our ratepayers.
Well, I was not here at the time the vote. However, the manner was put through and the money was...
It wasn't voted on. It was an email that went out, and then we had to retrospectively approve the expenditure.
Which was listed under other, not personal development.
And I have and we've got another issue later in the meeting which is doing the same thing.
Now, just let me get this, leaving that aside. So the amendment is C, the Mayor provide a detailed report at the July meeting in her capacity as councillor, or in the absence of a report considering repaying the money. I presume that we must have something to say that what the Mayor would be repaying.
I'm through you, Madam Mayor. From a procedural point of view, I'll ask the councillors who were there, was it resolved to retrospectively approve those monies?
Yes.
And then it's been retrospectively approved, councillors. If there was an issue at the time, it should have been debated at the time.
There was an issue at the time, and I asked for a report which still has not come to council.
And our understanding was that the councillor at the time was advised not to provide a report.
The report, as I saw that, and I have said that I didn't put the report in, that was on, and I've, because I did that councillor training, and I did say that a report would come, and in that I have been remiss. But it was a report on the activity within the course, and at the moment, in place of that, if you wish to go to the folders that are in the councillor room, you will find exactly what was in there, and it is available for all of you.
Look,
thank you.
Can I talk to the motion? Have we got a seconder? Yep. I'll talk to the motion. Look, as painful as you may think this motion is, or as targeted or as attacked, it's about accountability. Now, if we're going to provide ratepayers' money to councillors, there needs to be accountability. It's not a difficult process to provide a written report to council And we've been asking for this for a number of years. And I don't believe all councillors were afforded this money, the opportunity to spend this money. My understanding was only one, maybe two, availed themselves of it. Now, from the get-go, it was not something that I thought any councillor should have availed themselves of it. Having said that, I thought a report should come back to council on the matter. Now, if we're going to have a councillor expenses policy and councillors believe they may or may not be accountable, well, that's not good enough. Let's say $0. If we can't be accountable, $0.
Just a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Piper.
So, Councillor Flannery, would you be happy if the Mayor gives us, as a council, a written report by next meeting? Is that all you're looking for?
That is the usual process. If any councillor attends a meeting and has their expenses paid for, the usual process is they provide a report to council on what it was about, the benefits or otherwise. Now, this is not $2,000, this was $10,000. It's a significant amount of money. There was significant debate about whether the then Mayor should go to China on a trip, and it was all through the media. I think we need accountability.
I might add the former Mayor went on that trip and it was all done under budget and well documented, as Councillor Flannery pointed out, and a comprehensive report was given to Council when I returned.
There you go. Right, well, we have the amendment there, and we're voting on the amendment, which is that the Mayor provide a detailed report, am I right in saying this, at the July meeting in her capacity as councillor, or in the absence of a report for councillor training, consider repaying the money. Consider, I like that word. General Manager, have you got something to say here?
I'm just struggling to see how that, if it was retrospectively approved by council to approve expenditure, are you now rescinding that retrospective approval? Are you asking for it to be rescinded?
We're calling for the report. It is a pretty simple process. We are simply asking for a report. And if the, if the council doesn't want to present a report, they should consider whether they should.
Council, I don't believe that the second part of that motion is relevant to the point. Well, this is your amendment, councillor, so you can put that as it is. I'm saying is I don't believe it's appropriate for the second arm of that section, but that's time in your hands. It's your vote.
So, we'll put it to the vote. I'll just make a comment. There was no timeline, and as I said, I was remiss in not doing it, but we will put it to the vote. So,
Madam Mayor, just before you put it to the vote,
yes,
am I correct in my understanding that you're advised actually not to give a report?
Any
I know the answer, so I was just asking you, that's all.
Any decision is my decision, no matter what advice or whatever I might ask from other people. The decision is mine, Councillor Ingram. All right.
I've just got a question. Should we actually say what this is? Provide a detailed report about, I mean, obviously you know what you're talking about, but it doesn't actually say that in the resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Dodd. I think I raised that before. It's in relation to the Australian Institute of Financial Directors course that was run for councillors.
And is there any way to separate those, what the original thing was, and then this other, the report? Or it has to be attached to this because you can only bring items that are in the agenda? Is that
through you, Madam Mayor, the question before you is for an amendment to be valid, it needs to be relate to the matter being dealt with within the original motion. My point, my view is it's not. However, the argument is that put forward by councillors that it's transparent for an issue about transparency and accountability. I've talked about what I actually know and I'm not privy to what I do not know. The chairperson, being Madam Mayor, she can rule it out of order and not accept the amendment. However, because it's personal, she may consider that it's appropriate to go forward. The mechanism to decouple this, it would be a question without notice and a further report to be brought, and does not have to be coupled with this expenditure. However, Councillor Flannery has put it forward as attached to this report. If you believe it to be separate and distinct, you don't vote for the amendment. If you believe it can be coupled, you vote for the amendment, and that still avails Councillor Flannery to put forward a question on notice.
So he could put it forward in this meeting. He could put forward that as a separate thing.
A question without notice.
A question without notice at the end that it would just come to.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. You have a comment?
Well, to speak, I guess, if the for and against is finished, I'll have my say, having moved the motion. Look, I move this because I believe we need accountability. The Madam Mayor has been asked more than once at previous meetings to produce, and we still haven't seen it. So she was asked after the attendance report and then before the end of the last council. And the response was, I'll take it on notice, and we're still waiting. I think it's reasonable when you spend $10,100 that the public, let alone other councillors, be advised of the purpose of the course, what they achieved, what they didn't achieve, and so on. It's not a particularly different process. But I don't believe any councillor should have spent that amount of money. That's my personal view. But if any councillor chose to, I believe they need to be accountable.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. It was approved, retrospectively. I'm happy to put this forward, to put it in front of you. As I said before, there are a number of reasons perhaps why that report hasn't come forward, but as I say, that information is available for everybody. So if we put the...
So just to remind councillors, you were voting for the amendment to be... well, actually, no, you've moved this, Councillor Flannery, haven't you? So you moved it as an amendment, so it doesn't need to be an amendment. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. My question is, should the amendment get up, then or the current recommendation become the motion, how will the mention of the provision of the iPads be included in the document? Because council will have endorsed this current document. Will it be changed after endorsement?
I mean, it'll be incorporated into the document as discussed and explained by the CFO. So if you need to see it clearly written, we'd write it in now.
I just can't see how the document, after it is endorsed by council, I can't see how the document can change. So I think that if we're going to put it in there, need to put it in beforehand, and then put it to council. I'll leave it in the hands of council, but if council's happy for the document to change afterwards, then I can't support it at all.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
So at this point in time, you're voting for, you're actually voting for the motion as put. It's not an amendment to the motion. It's been moved as with the amendment, and it has been seconded.
So I will put
don't we just vote on just a question here. I thought we voted on the amendment and then voted.
No, from a procedural point of view, because Councillor Flannery moved the motion with the amendment, with the change to the motion as is, and it has been seconded as it is the motion. So if the motion had been moved and seconded, and then Councillor Flannery says, I want to move an amendment, then we would vote separately. question with the coupling of it is, if the motion succeeds, it succeeds, and it is as it is. If it fails, you've voted against the draft policy in its entirety. So therefore, we would have to bring the councillor expenses policy back 3 months hence. Is that,
with your indulgence, could I ask a clause D be inserted that the council iPad be added to the table of listed benefits to councillors?
You satisfied with that, Councillor Ingram? All right. So the question that I'm looking for the governance of is that we would not be able to bring this policy back for three months. Public submission if it fails.
We added to the
To add it to the table.
of council.
Yep. So I just want to make it clear to councillors, which is, I've already said my part about how coupling this. However, if you vote for it, it goes through as stated. If you don't agree with the section of it, we have to bring this back in 3 months hence. So you will not have a expense policy for that period of time. Councillor Armstrong, is that correct?
If we were to move for deferral, couldn't it come back next month?
Yes.
So that would work?
Well, it would, but however, the motion's been put.
All right.
Putting a section, could we add D to the...
D has been added.
It hasn't been screen shared, so. Yep. No. You can't. Well, and you can't, well, shadow. So, as I said, the motion is as it's put. You vote on that motion. If you don't vote for the entirety of the motion, we would bring the policy back in 3 months hence.
Or did you say 1 month? Or
3 months.
3 months. All right.
There was a rescission motion on it, but no, it'd be 3 months hence the policy. We do have 12 months to review policies. But.
Okay. Well, councillors, you heard that. There's 12 months to review policies. If you decide not to accept it, it comes back in 3 months' time, or will be back in 3 months' time. All right. Any other comments? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? All right, motion is lost. Thank you, councillors. All right, moving on. The next one, just let me take a deep breath and find my place again. We're up to 12.6.2210, draft credit card policy. Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Foreman. All right. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you want to say anything? No? No comments? All right,
Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Armstrong, pardon me.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like councillors to consider the inclusion of a further requirement that the external auditor undertakes an annual review of credit card usage. I'd point to events in local government over a number of years where the abuse of credit cards has been endemic. And the only way that I think that we can ensure that our community can be confident with us in this regard is by having the external auditor review, or an external auditor review, the credit card usage. Now, I realise that would be done as part of potentially the financial statements, but what I'm talking about is a separate external review or a separate external audit to ensure that there's compliance there. I think that whilst there will be a cost attached to it, it certainly goes a long way towards managing our reputational risk and also the financial risk that credit cards present.
Through you, Madam Mayor, before we ask the councillors who moved and seconded whether they accept that as part of the motion, otherwise it would go forward to the amendment, the CFO has some commentary.
Yeah, Councillor Armstrong, yes, it was that point that you're making was actually included in the management letter response last year in terms of a review, and the external auditor will look at credit card transactions as part of the audit. I don't see that as necessary to put a separate expense from the external audit point of view, but actually included within the annual plan, which has just gone to the audit committee yesterday. And I think council's been provided with a copy of that, the annual plan. But so what I'm suggesting to you is that yes, it was picked up in the management letter last year, the 2021 management letter, which was presented to council last month, and but we can actually request that they include that as part of the audit program.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that it might have actually been mentioned in a number of management letters from the auditors since Hilltops' inceptions. Yeah. I stand resolute in my recommendation that this needs to be an external audit undertaken on an annual basis, independent of our financial audit for the annual statements. This is an area in which reputational risk is the likelihood of damage from it is huge. The potential is always there. I'm not suggesting that there are people are not using them correctly, but it needs to be squeaky clean, and everybody needs to be able to see that it's squeaky clean.
If I can just add, Councillor Armstrong, the financial accountant who was present at the last meeting prepared the fees and charges schedule, actually reviews and I'm actually having a look at the credit card distribution to see whether we can actually find that. But would you be comfortable with the fact that I review those expenditures every month? And I can even bring a report to council if necessary, rather than, I'm not quite sure what the value is in getting an independent external auditor to outside the audit office / Deloitte as a contractors and actually performing that task. So she does do a rigorous review of those items of expenditure, and I'm aware of the issue that you're talking about.
So thank you for the comments. And to go to the response to the question, I guess council, the elected council, would not be aware of the rigour, would not be aware of the process. Perhaps if council could be advised of that, of the rigour of the process, then that may go some way towards mitigating the risk, or certainly providing a modicum of reassurance that risk is being mitigated. But in the absence of it, I think it needs to be someone with some detachment from council.
I'm happy to bring a report back to council next meeting and in fact do a summary of the expenses, let's say for the last 6 months or 12 months, of the types of expenditure that go through the credit cards.
That would be excellent. As far as I'm concerned, I'll leave that in the hands of my fellow councillors to see whether they're happy with that or not. But I do implore councillors to consider this policy before they vote on it.
So, Councillor Armstrong, if we were to change, we just see the Chief Financial Officer bring it back, because the report for you is to put it out on public exhibition, so you would vote on it about its rigour, that would give us an opportunity. And if you're not satisfied with that, then you still want to put forward this amendment as is, I'll ask you, how would this be funded? I think we can move forward with this. I believe you may be satisfied with the report coming back from the CFO that would accompany before, and we're making sure it's before the agenda item for the credit card policy to be adopted.
You can use my $1,000 a year expense amount if you want.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
So,
my suggestion would be it would be funded from audit fees, the same as the $40,000 extra bill for year before last was funded. But I'm happy to. I personally am very happy to receive that report. It may well be that a notice of motion might come to council requesting amendment to this policy, where that report becomes an annual report to council, or a 6-monthly report to council on an ongoing basis. So I'm happy to receive that. I'm not suggesting any improprieties. I don't want the staff to think that I am. It's just that I have grave concerns about the reputational risk that council is faced with when it comes to the use of these credit cards.
thank you, Councillor Armstrong. So, are we moving forward without your recommended amendment there, or are we asking for the movers and seconders to adopt your what is on the screen now? Are we taking that off, or are we leaving it and asking that question?
You can take it off now, but it's going to come back. I can tell you that now.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Madam Mayor, a question for our financial advisor.
Yes, Councillor Piper.
How many credit cards does council have?
There's approximately 15 of them. I don't have the list in front of me. So they are used on occasions for ICT purposes if we need to get something urgently, occasionally for transport registration of vehicles if that's necessary. So the who now reports to me, fleet manager has that. But I can provide a list of those that have it. I'm actually going to I'm going to refine. I'm having a look at that list anyway, and as I said to Councillor Armstrong, it was raised in the management letter and raised by auditors last year, and they want us to. I understand his concern, and I'm aware of where there's been misuse by other government organisations with credit cards.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions, observations.
Can I just ask a question?
Councillor.
Yeah, with the 15, is there a certain amount that's topped out before it has to go a little bit higher for approval?
Yes, there is. Yeah, they're different. Yeah, I haven't got that in front of me, but there's different limits. Say from the general manager and the mayor, and then down to somebody like the ICT manager. They're different. They don't have. They're not. They do have limits on the card, yes.
So, Councillor Mackie, there's two things that guide the use of the credit card. The credit card in itself, there is a limit on the credit card, so obviously you can't exceed that. The second element is there is delegated authority for expenditure to order. There is delegated authority to approve those orders, and they may not necessarily meet up, but certainly the limits on the credit card, my limit, and I don't mind saying it publicly, is $10,000, but my delegated authority far exceeds that. Having said that, they're not a vehicle of which to circumnavigate the procurement process. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll put motion. Those in favour? One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7. You got them?
Yep, so Ingram, Forum, Fitzgerald, Flannery, Rolls, Hewson, Piper, Dodd, Mackie.
And against? Armstrong. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on. And the next one is 12.7, 22.11, Draft Enterprise Risk Management Policy, found on page 135. for anybody who wishes to know. And the recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Oh, pardon me.
Question?
1, 2, 3. Can we have a mover and a second first? A mover? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Yes, Councillor Armstrong, a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question of the General Manager. Can we have the context, please, provided to us? We've got a lot of risk criteria identified in there, but we have no contexts that would go to the establishment of the thresholds, the risk thresholds themselves. That's probably been provided to the Risk and Audit Committee. I wouldn't know because the business paper wasn't supplied to councillors on the hub.
So, Councillor Armstrong, if you look at page 129 or 6 of the actual suggested policy, the risk appetite statement was actually, that came out of a session which statewide insurers conducted with the executive and managers. I'd only just been here a few weeks when this was conducted, and that actually is a profile that statewide prepared, actually specific for Hilltops in terms of the risk appetite, what the feedback was in terms of the, it was a day training session here, and we're intending to do another one. So what you see on page 129, 130 is actually Hilltops assessment prepared by statewide of our risk appetite by category.
Yes, I've read that, but I do note that ISO 31000 hasn't changed Mayors 4360 substantially, in that one of the first things you've got to do to develop the scope is develop the context of the organisation. So in this regard, I don't know what the context is in terms of the organisation, in terms of, for argument's sake, the financial levels in our consequences. So I don't, given our precarious financial position, I don't know whether these dollar values are consistent with the context. So can we get have we not done the context? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, so I can provide the council with a copy to the next meeting of the risk register, if you like, which actually identifies that information.
If the context are attached to the risk register, that'd be great. All councils would probably appreciate it.
Yeah, by category of risk. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Any other questions? Queries? Councillor Dodd, are you right? Everything?
Yeah, I was just wondering how it's talk on page 134, but you're going to explain it. So. I thought 134 had numbers and things, so I don't understand what the question is about context, because that gives timelines and financial amounts, but obviously there's more to it than what's been provided.
Yes, so we'll provide the risk register, which actually highlight that by category in terms of our current position and what the inherent risk is and what the residual risk would be after mitigation of that risk, which I think is what Councillor Armstrong is actually getting to. Yeah.
No, what I'm getting at is the ISO standard 31000.
Yeah.
States that in order to establish your risk appetite, you've got to understand your context, both internal and external. So in that regard, when it comes to the financial aspects of risk, our context relates to our annual turnover, our rate revenue, and other sources of revenue, our expenditure, our tolerance for loss or damage to our income streams, and our ability to manage that based upon our reserves and the general feeling of the community towards that. So without establishing the context, these figures really don't mean much at all. It's a little bit like throwing darts at a dartboard. They're really only, I guess, opinions rather than based upon some actual summary of the of the facts of the context itself. So if Councillor Dodd is questioning that, then I guess that's what I'm getting at. I just don't understand where these figures or where these consequent levels have come from. I understand the risk descriptors, but I don't understand whether the consequent levels have come from, or the consequences have come from, based upon the fact that there is no context that's been provided in the document.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. I'll put it now. Those in favour?
Well, the Ingram Forum,
yes,
unanimous.
Yes, unanimous. Thank you, councillors. All right, moving on to 12.8. 2212, draft debt recovery and financial hardship policy. The recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Hewson, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Piper. Any discussion, questions? Councillor Armstrong.
Item 9. There's a statement that the Office of Local Government has set councils' performance benchmark of less than 5% for councils in the city and coastal areas and less than 10% for other regional rural areas. They may change. I believe it's appropriate that those three lines be taken out of the policy. They have no relevance to the policy.
Thank you, Councillor Ingham. The
Armstrong did.
Oh, sorry. Now I'm doing it.
It wasn't me this time, Councillor.
So it's the Office of Local Government has set councils' performance benchmark of less than 5% for councils, and less than 10%. They're more descriptive, so we can take them out. So we take them out for public exhibition.
Okay.
In section 9 of measuring performance, the second paragraph and dot points, it's recommended to be removed, and I see no issue with that because the document will remain current irrespective of the movement. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Any other comments, queries, questions? Now we actually have 2 councillors out of the room. We still have a quorum. Yeah, we still have a quorum. So those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
By their absence, they never voted on the matter, so isn't it?
But they're absent.
So it's a no.
It's, well.
So we record their absence.
Technicality doesn't matter, the motion passed, so.
Yep. All right. We'll just give while we're waiting for it to catch up, we'll go to the next one, which is 12.9.2213, the draft.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move a motion.
Yes, Councillor Armstrong. Righto.
I'd like to move a motion that Council approve the draft investment policy with the removal of clauses 13 dot, 13 no dot, 13.1,
Could you just say that again?
So Councillor Armstrong has moved that on page 171 of the document, or page 8 of the draft policy, the 13.13 without the dot and 13.1, those 3 sections be removed from the public exhibition. I'll ask the CFO to. Oh, sorry, Councillor Armstrong.
And the staff be requested to come back to council at the next meeting with a loans policy or borrowing policy. Sorry.
Staff have no issue with that. So,
and then section B remains the same.
So yeah, so section B, B stays the same. So we will remove the document that's been recommended by council as we move block 13.13 and 13.1 B. And is it fair to say, Councillor Armstrong, and you would say NC, a policy, a draft policy on borrowing policy be brought back to the meeting of council? That's
yes. You want to add those words in as C? I'm happy for that.
Yep. No. Yep.
Councillor Armstrong, you're requesting a separate policy to come back to council in relation to borrowings,
That's
not part
correct.
of this policy.
I don't believe it's appropriate to have a borrowings policy tacked on the end of an investment policy.
Yes.
It's something that the community might be expecting to be able to see in its entirety as a separate document. And I'm
sure.
I think that's probably the best way for us to manage that expectation.
Happy to second them.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ingram. You have it before you. Are there any questions? Comments? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. The next one we're up to is 12.10, Cash and Investment Report, 31st of May 2022. You have it in front of you. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ingram, and a seconder, Councillor Armstrong. Okay. Any questions, queries? I'll put it. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving along, we're up to here we are, 12.11, 22.15, Outstanding Rates and Charges and Sundry Debtors Report, page 177. You see recommendation. Do I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Piper. All right. Any comments? Questions? I'll put it. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on, we're going to 12.12, Development Application Stats for May 2022. Do I have just a change of seats going on, I think. Pardon me. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Foreman, and a seconder, Councillor Fitzgerald. Any questions, comments? If not, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Councillor Armstrong, yes? Yes, unanimous. Thank you.
Councillor Armstrong, that was a vote for yes for that.
Yes, I was just looking for a development there. Could I ask a question in regard to is the DA required for demolition?
Yes.
Is that what about for structures are pertinent to a dwelling? Carport.
In some cases, yes, but I have to have more information on the context to it to give you a full answer. That's all.
Thank you.
Yes.
The matter has been voted on, but Councillor, happy to take a question on notice or a question out of camera. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We're going on to 12.13. That's the DA 2022 subdivision for 2 lots at 40 Normans Road, Young. Do I have a mover? And a seconder? Councillor Hewson, thank you. Any discussion questions? If not, I will put it. Those in favour?
Those in favour are Foreman, Fitzgerald, Flannery, Rolls, Hewson, Piper, Dodd, Mackey, Armstrong.
And against?
And against is Councillor
Ingram. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we're moving pace. The next one?
We dealt with 12-14.
Yes, we did. We dealt with 12-14, so we move on then to 12-15, 22-19, DA 2022-0066, and that's at 37 GOLDVIEW Close, page 307 for those looking. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Hewson. And a seconder? Councillor Dodd. All right. Any queries, questions, comments? No? I'll put it to vote. Those in favour?
Because it's a development application, Ingram, Foreman, Fitzgerald, Flannery, Rolls, Hewson, Piper, Dodd, Mackey and Armstrong.
All right. Thank you. The next one is 12-16 and 22-20, and that's DA 0270 subdivision, 2 lots at 59 Scott Street, BOOROWA, on page 346. Do I have a mover? And do I have a seconder? Councillor Hewson, thank you. Do we have comments, questions, queries? If not, those in favour?
It is unanimous. I won't read all the councillors again. We have all councillors present voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one we go to is 12-17, DA 0014, dual occupancy, 2 dwellings and 1 lot into 2 at 1 KARABAH Avenue, Young, 395. Do I have a mover? A mover? Do I have a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hewson. All right, any queries, questions?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of Planning, just a comment on the size of the lots and the closeness of the proposed buildings to the fence line.
Through the Mayor, yeah, there's some important issues there that come up in the assessment report as well to ensure that the design, including the how the buildings are aligned, or make sure there's no alignment between the windows, and if there is any windows that do align, that they actually have opaque coverings, etc. So there is a range of factors we can put into play through design to minimise those impacts.
Yeah. Any more questions, queries? I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous.
Again, that's a unanimous, so I won't read all councillors. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to 12-18, 22, updated GALONG VPA for public consultation purposes on page 489.
I'll move with questions or comments.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Ingram.
Councillor Ingram. Thank you. Councillor Flannery.
Look, generally throughout the reference of roads used, it refers to GALONG. It goes, I won't go through them all, but it incorrectly notes GALONG Road on the western side of GALONG, and it's actually Limestone Way, and that should be updated, especially given the rural addressing we did throughout my term on Hilltop on Harden Council. If that It's really just to be updated. The document that was sent through to us the other evening, which is the amended document, I'll have to find it again, but it refers to 40 years, but it has the modified DA consent as of 2019. So, and I may, well, where is that 40 years reference back to the start date? Right. Just to be clear that we're not granting consent. I know this is a VPA document, but we're updating the document with reference to the original consent.
On the first item, we'll double check that and we can have that amended as part of this process. On the second item, in regard to the 40 years, as you mentioned, it's a VPA, not a consent, and it's got to align with the consent. It can't override the consent. So if there is an issue there, we can pick that up as well in that process without bringing into question the consent approved back in March 2019.
Yeah, I think it's just probably in some of the wording, but
yeah, we can. Yeah. The advantage is we're in the consultation phase potentially if you endorse it, so we do have the chance to pick up the administration elements such as that.
Okay, thank you. The issues, it's on page 548 where throughout it should be referred to as Limestone Way. It refers to Galong Road, Burley Griffin Way intersection. That's actually Limestone Way throughout there.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Any other questions, queries? Keep in mind this is going out to consultation and there's the opportunity for submissions to be brought. Read the document. So any other queries, questions?
Just a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Piper.
Who was our current representative on the board? So we haven't.
No one's been appointed since the previous, and there hasn't been a VPA meeting.
Councillor Horton, did you know? Yes. Okay. Was just looking a bit confused over there. All right. If there are no more queries or questions, I'll put it to you.
Madam Mayor, if we haven't got one, when are we going to get one?
It was in the.
We just did it before.
You don't have to worry, Councillor Piper. You're not on. All right, I will put it to vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We go to the next one, which is 2019-22-3 distribution of financial assistance sponsorship funds on page 561. Councillor Ingram and Councillor Foreman. Any comments, queries? Then I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. The next one is 12-20, 22-24, the works report.
Happy to move with questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And do we have a seconder? Okay, thank you. So if everybody's on the right page, except for me, on page 572. Okay. Councillor Ingram, your question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given my commentary in the last few council meetings in regard to gravel reshooting, the first thing I'd say it's good effort on council to get the amount of gravel reshooting they've done given the weather and conditions, but of course I would have taken that into consideration as any other organisational person would have. But so congratulations on that. My question is a bit two-shaped. With our gravel reshooting, Mr. General Manager, we have a budget set. Is that correct? And who actually sets that budget? I'd say council has set that budget, am I correct?
Part of the budgeting process, you set the figure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's solid. Okay, thank you. So now my question will go to the relevant officer who's at the podium. Could you just confirm for me, please, that Springvale Road and Willamere Lane are both in the former Boorowa council areas?
Through the Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll go back to the point about budgets. And the budget for gravel reshooting in the former BOOROWA area was $90,000. Now, Mr. Crisp was good enough to provide us, going on my questions previously about how much it costs to gravel a kilometre, to throw in some numbers here against some gravel reshooting that have been done on page 574. And it's a bit not all out of last month's work. It's a bit hodgepodge, some were and some weren't. But the interesting read, when you look at it, is it's 2.2 kilometres to Springvale Road, round figures $800,000 due to carting haulage material. Millamere Lane, nearly $45,000. And I thought, hold on, 80 and 45, that's a bit more than 90,000. So I had another look. And I found that previously we've done a kilometre on Bryle Road, Mr. Crisp, that in the former BOOROWA area as well.
Through the Mayor, that is correct.
And so, given that this month, or last month, just past, we did another 2 kilometres on Bryle Road and was costed at $24,800. I presume the 1 kilometre would be half, say $36,000. So if you do some maths, it would appear that we've spent $162,000 on gravel reshooting in the former BOOROWA area. In round figures, and I won't get the calculator out, that's 80% over budget. My question probably needs to go to the General Manager. How could that happen without Council allocating that funds in the budget to that area? How is it possible? Or where does the delegation come from? How did it happen? Very hard to deny because it's been provided in black and white to us in the report.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, it's not my way to deny anything. So thank you for your question. I'm not closely associated to the actual what the crews are out there, so I will defer to Mr. Crisp as into the reasons why we may do that, whether it's safety, whether it was due to weather events, and anything of those nature. I'm just supposing that that's why additional work may have been required.
Thank you for that, Mr. General Manager. And I've got can ask Mr. Crisp those questions. I was just asking, how is it possible, from an organisational point of view, for that amount of funding to be allocated before councillors were notified? I'll ask Mr. Crisp the other relevant questions.
So through Madam Mayor, obviously there is a budget set, and officers have a delegation to expend that. I personally don't do a line by line against each item, so that's a question that I will ask, that operational question of the staff post this meeting.
And my next question, it comes in regard to that, to wind it all up, and where did that money come from? I've got a pretty rough idea. I know where it's coming from, but given what I've just asked Mr. Crisp in regard to that, and in the predicted works to be done, could you just confirm for me where the Grassy Creek is located? Is that in the former BOOROWA area?
Through the Madam Mayor, that is correct. That's in BOOROWA.
So we've spent 80% more than was budgeted for, and we're still predicting to do more gravel reshooting in that area. Mr. Crisp, can you provide some explanation to how that could happen, please?
Through the Madam Mayor, Little Plains is an LRCIP funded project. So
I never mentioned Little Plains.
So it's not revenue. Okay, sorry, Councillor. The other projects, I'm just gonna have to take it on notice, because some of these projects could be under the LRCIP banner and not under revenue.
Mr. Crisp, I would say to you that in the report, in black and white, that you've got listed there, they're from revenue, capital. The only one that you mentioned, LRCIP, was Little Plains, that I did not mention. I understand you've said you'll take it on notice. I understand the edict that I'll accept that, and you will come back to council with the reasoning, and I don't know what the reasoning will be, because I just don't know how you can move that amount of money without council approval. And when you bring that answer back to council, you might also bring the answer back to as to where that money came from or came out of. What's not happening? Who's not getting that funding to supplement the funding you've spent over there? That is my question and my concern. And councillors, you'll work out later on that I have some concerns about a lot of things. My next question or request to council is, could you please provide councillors with a breakdown, given another matter that's coming up shortly, in regard to the roads to recovery breakdown, 2021, 21, 22, as to where it was allocated. Also, a full breakdown of the LRCIP funds, 1, 2 and 3 for when they were handed out and what it was spent on, so that old councillors, existing councillors I should say, and new councillors can be made aware of where council's money's been spent, because it's very hard to keep track of it, as was proven once before. So if they could be provided to councillors in a breakdown, and as I said, I appreciate this breakdown, and it clearly shows that a big variance in the cost of gravel shooting a kilometre of road. Obviously, we have got no gravel pits anywhere near where these works were done, or we didn't use it, obviously, because we've carved it a long, long way, because it's an extreme cost. That has to be done, but it just can't be done at the drop of a hat and without the consent of council when you're over budget by 80%. So that's my questions. Thank you, Mr. Crisp.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. And I think they have been noted. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crisp.
And taking on notice, I mean at the next month's meeting, not 8 months later.
That has been noted. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, one more comment.
Comment? Question?
Comment. I think it could be a compliment, actually. I'm not too sure. Can you verify for me that the second section of Millvale Road was done differently than the first section?
Through Madam Mayor, obviously we're talking about the section through the industrial area of Young on Millvale. Nothing really was done differently apart from aggregate colour is a little bit different to the first section. So, but no, there's no inherent change in the works. There might have been a little bit of prep difference, trying to get a little bit of a different finish on the second stage, but inherent, it's basically the same sort of work, first and second stage.
The surface is chalk and cheese. From the first section, when we had a little problem, 1% you told me, to the second section, to me, seems to be a much stronger surface than the first surface, and with the aggregate that's on top of it.
Sounds to me like it's a compliment, Councillor Ingram.
Well, my point is, I'm hoping that we'll listen to when we spoke about how the first part was done. Yes, you're right, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just a question for
Councillor Flannery.
Director Chris. Just, I know I sent an email, but the interface between the gravel road and the causeway on Heathfield Road, gravel has been put there to make it not as dangerous. However, there's water running down the middle of the road about 500, well, probably 300 metres south of the intersection, actually to be east of the intersection with Maringo Road, which I would have thought someone might have noticed when they drove over the top of it to do the causeway, but obviously not. But I think the excavator that's sitting about 3 kilometres away down on Campbellfields Road, if it got moved up there, it could alleviate future damage to the road. And just on Campbellfields Road, I know I sent photos through of it, but it is, the sides have been cleaned for the drainage, but it is very, very dangerous, the potholes there. You run the risk of a car rollover if something's not dealt with it.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and I think it has been. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question to the Director of Infrastructure in regards to the works that are programmed for Tangmangaroo Road. At the community meeting at BOOROWA last week, there was significant concern raised by one of the residents of Tangmangaroo Road in regards to the state of the road. I do note Councillor Ingram's comments that all the money for gravel reshooting is long gone, so we obviously can't afford to gravel reshoot Tangmangaroo Road because that's no money there. I'm just wondering what sort of works will be undertaken to remediate some of the issues out there.
Through Madam Mayor, Tangangaroo is a very wet track at the moment, and we're just waiting on a little dry break before we can actually get plant in there to do a maintenance grade. And that's be our minimum activity at the moment. But we just can't set foot in there at the moment because it's just so wet. There's just a huge soak coming off the hills that are coming into that road.
Is it the same as Harry's Creek Road?
Harry's Creek, yes, we actually broke through that in this last week, so it's another area as well. It's all that area.
Is that will that be done, or will there be works done on Harry's Creek Road as well?
Yes, there will be. There'll be at least a maintenance grade done when conditions permit.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just another question for Mr.
Yes.
Chris. It's in regards to the renewal of the sewer and water lines that is going along in between showers, and they're doing a great job. There's no such thing as a silly question, but I presume that we've made allowance in the budget for those works for the repair of the roads, the services that have been have to be taught up, of course, to do the work. So I'm just hoping and praying that we don't say we're going to go to there and stop. We've spent that $3 million, but we've got nothing to do all the repair work with. And I imagine the repair cost will be significant because between the sewer and the water lines, there's been a lot of upheaval. But I presume I hope that's costed out and all accounted for.
Through Madam Mayor, I might just hand over to the Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the repair work for all of those areas that are affected by the replacement of pipes has been included in the budgeting.
Thank you. While you're there, Director, I might ask just a question to you. It's not a question, it's a statement. I sent a photo on an email to the Director and the General Manager on the 10th of June, and I resent that email last night to all councillors about a tree branch down on our creek walkway, where it was quite obvious and had been pointed out to me for a while. It's been there for over 2 months, and our staff have been mowing that area, but they've been mowing around the tree, as the photo quite clearly showed. Now, I don't know if the bloke on the mower or the lady on the mower is allowed to use a chainsaw or get off the mower, but surely they're allowed to tell their supervisor that something needs to be done. Now, very disappointing yesterday, took the photo again, the only thing's changed, the grass has got longer. Do we not have any action being taken on these matters that are notified to council? It is a disgrace. A beautiful walkway there. There's a lot of work needs to be done on the creek, I know, but here's this limb been down for months. We've had staff mowing around it, clearly. And when notified of it, to the Director and the General Manager, and still nothing done. What do we have to do to get some service levels?
Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, staff are aware of the matter with this branch. It is a very wet area of the park area. However, I have had discussions with staff, and they should have cleaned up the head at least.
Well, I could have done it in 5 minutes.
Got out of there.
I could have done it in 5 minutes, but I wouldn't because I had trouble.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
I do agree. So the bigger job to dry till later, and but they should have cleaned it. So they are actioning it, I'm assure you.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Thank you, councillors. We have respectful debate in this chamber. Thank you.
Truthful debate also come into it, Madam Mayor. To tell me it's been too wet to remove that limb, come for a walk with me tomorrow.
Ingram. All right. Any other comments? No, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? 4, 5, 6, 7. Those against?
Councillor
Strong, did you?
Councillor Armstrong, are you against?
I'm against.
Okay,
thank you.
This is not Councillor Ingram. This is Councillor Armstrong.
No, we didn't see your hand, Councillor Armstrong. We did see Councillor Ingram also vote against.
I just hear my name called when other people are talking. I just get so confused because I thought it was the COVID fog.
I'll do my very best.
Fog.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Next one, we have 12, 21, 22, 25, and that's the action summary report, which is found on page 581. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And a seconder? Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald. Any questions, comments?
Is it possible for the print of the action report to be slightly larger, as it's getting expensive with my optometrist?
We'll do our best to increase the font. Thank you. Yeah.
We might have to give out magnifying glasses. Perhaps that might be a solution.
We'll try. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, councillors. I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, the next one, 22, 26, media releases and Office of Local Government circulars.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Dodd? Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Questions with notice. Number 13. Do we have questions with notice?
Yeah, well, we do have a question. Madam Mayor, we do have a question with notice. So the request for work carried out on Galong Road. The question with notice was received by Councillor Flannery.
Yes.
I'd like to move it and move amendment. I'd like to move it with an amendment to Part B. That Part B read the outstanding works of, and I have to get, instead of being 463,570, be the difference, which is of 200,000, be $109,500 to be funded from the 21-22 Roads to Recovery allocation.
Just getting it up for everybody. There we go.
Councillor Flannery just moved it with that, just to make sure that this is the. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now we'll ask for a second.
Yep.
Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Flannery.
This report, regrettably, speaks volumes for where we are as a council. This report came about because I was shut down by you at the last council meeting when I was told that all my questions had been answered when I asked for details of work that had previously been done on Galong Road. And when I asked the question, I asked it knowingly because I do some farming work nearby and had to traverse the particular area of the road and was stopped there when work was being carried out. Now, the question I asked was, haven't we already done work on this area of the road? And I was, without going back to the tapes, which I'd be happy for council to do, I was told, no, it's a different area. And I contested where the work had been done on a number of occasions, and eventually I was shut down by you, Madam Mayor. So in black and white, we have the details, and I would appreciate an apology, but I probably won't get one. But what we have here is, for want of a better way of putting it, an absolute debacle and a disgrace. If I had not sent through an email following up my very basic requests on the work that had been done and why we would, it started with why we haven't got Galong Road open. And we were told some months ago was signage still had to go up. We were told at the last meeting it was signage and work at an intersection. We are now getting told on the back of me being shut down and then sending an email that we actually need $463,000 to complete the work. And this money was going to be spent, by the looks of it, without any approval from council. We were going to spend $500,000 without us getting approved had I not insisted details of the Galong Road work be brought to council. And I don't know anyone in this room that's got delegation to do that. So I think there need to be some pretty serious questions asked here tonight. What's more, the report is lacking actually some additional detail, because my very clear memory is that when council put in the application for this grant money, Sibelco, the then owners, committed 870,000 or thereabouts by way of gravel for use on the road. And I don't see that anywhere in this report. What's more, the report details on page 587 the process by which this grant came about, all of which I've asked about a number of times in council before, and it's been denied point blank. There was any conference between council and the mine owners. So we've got a grant application that was applied for by council in confluence with the then mine owners, being Sibelco, which none of the ratepayers along that road, which was a local road, were asked for any information or sought support for a grant application, many of who subsequently objected to it. We've got it in black and white here now, the process by which it came about. We haven't got the money from Sibelco that was promised, and governments always ask for a contribution like this. So government were told in that application that Sibelco would provide nearly $1 million worth of gravel, and we haven't seen one sign of it. It's not in this report. Council have been asked to provide $200,000. We've provided $90,000, and we're about to spend $460,000. And given when I look at the work schedule, it says it's to be spent by the end of June. I'm actually assuming, given we're, 8 days out and we've got a weekend coming up, most of it's already been spent without any authority. So I think we've got a bit of a problem.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Manager Chris, would you like to speak to this?
Through the Mayor, I'd just like to just take on notice the grant application with the Sibelco contribution. I'll just use that in italics. I just need to check whether that was actually included in the original grant submission or not. That's all.
Thank you.
So could the Director please advise us of any estimate of money that's been spent without approval that's outside the $200,000 that council committed? It's not clear in this report where the original $200,000 was coming from. I think I'm being generous in moving that it come from the existing roads to recovery budget, which means it'll come out of work on other roads that it should have been used for. Do we have any idea of how much money has been spent and where that is coming from, if it doesn't come from roads to recovery?
Through the Mayor, as detailed in the report, the original $200,000 was deemed, as discussed in Table 1, that contribution was to come from roads to recovery of that $200,000. And to date, we've spent around $205,000, and that is sourced from also roads to recovery.
Doesn't the report say we've spent $90,000, but we're asking for $463,000, which will come from roads to recovery? But I can only assume, although given the mess our accounts are, that the original $200,000 would have been rolled over continuously from roads to recovery allocations, and if not, it should have been.
Through Madam Mayor, 18-19, we spent $90,000 on patching work as discussed, as discussed in Table 4, and the balance to make up to $205,000 has been made up in consequent years.
Okay.
So, do we know how much has been spent today as we sit here tonight?
In total, $205,000 out of roads recovery, taking your total expenditure to $49,809,807 as articulated in Table 5.
The report says the work will be finished by the end of June, and we're asking for $463,000. So we're awaiting approval for an additional $263,000 tonight, which will be spent in the next 5 days, excluding the weekend. Is that correct?
We are looking at Ubindal Road intersection of 300,000 and signage. I don't believe tree planting is going to be included in all land acquisition costs. They won't be realised before the 30th of June.
So to date, we have not spent 1 cent beyond an approved budget. And if the motion stands, we won't have to come back to a QBR for a variation. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor's staff are working through the overall allocation of waste recovery of the 1.77 from this financial year, which is approved in the operational plan. We have broken that up over the districts, so we do have an overall arching approval out of that 1.77 allocation.
That was not the question. The question was, are you confident that we won't have to come back for a QBR review of money spent on Galong Road if we allocate the amount that should have been allocated, being 205,000, not an additional 263,000?
Through the Mayor, I'm reasonably confident that these figures, we should not have to be coming back to do another QBR adjustment.
Thank you. After any further comment, I'll make further comment.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? No? Councillor Flynn? Oh, Councillor Dodd.
I'm sorry, I don't understand why the number was changed. Can you just tell me where you got that 109? So you had the 463,000.
The report, as detailed on, well, variously, but on page 588, says that there was 2 government grants, a state and federal government grant, and that council would contribute 200,000, being $498,762. It then goes through to say that to complete all the work necessary, including the Ubindal Road intersection upgrade, that additional money is going to be spent, and that we need. So far, there's only been $90,400 and something of previous R2R money, roads to recovery money spent. Therefore, to fully spend the money we said the government that we would, we need to commit another $110,000, and we would be meeting the commitments that we made to the government. And that should fund the expenditure as budgeted on this road, being $4,985,000. But the report is asking for $463,570, an excess of approximately $260,000. Now, I don't see that we should approve that money because there are plenty of other roads in this shire that need significant money spent on them. And I think that if we haven't got the money, the road will have to stay unfinished for BW usage and for the usage of the Galong mine, or the staff have the option to go back to the VPA funds that are already in kitty and borrow from that money. But this should not be ratepayers' problems because of our stuffing up of budgets and not running to budgets, particularly when the contribution was offered by Subelco. They do have options, and I don't think we should approve this.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Any other discussion points? Mr. Crisp, are you?
No, Madam Mayor, I have nothing further to add.
All right, if that's the case, then I will put it. Oh,
no,
Councillor Ingram. Then Councillor Armstrong.
I'll defer to Councillor Ingram. He was in first.
Look, I think I'll defeat Councillor Armstrong. It's just very disappointing when it's pointed out, and I had some questions about it myself, but Councillor Flannery's covered it off pretty well, and the statement's been made. So I'll pass to Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the General Manager. Given that there's a need for this extra $260,000, what road is going to miss out? So who's going to go without because of this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have to take that on notice.
Can that please come back to next month's council meeting then? Because I'd like the ratepayers, before they consider any special rate variations, to fully understand that they're missing out on something because someone has made a decision or we have an estimate that is so far off the mark that they're going to have to miss out. I don't necessarily think that this is a standalone example. I think that we've got significant issues when it comes to our budgeting and cost controls, and I have some concerns that we are able to adequately account for those costs internally in an appropriate manner. I'm not suggesting any improprieties, but I think that there might be costs going to the wrong jobs.
Through you, Madam Mayor, given, well, the example that before you goes well back to 2017, as I said, I'll take that on notice and I'll do my very best to bring a report back articulating a way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, and we'll put it to vote.
No, I'll make further comment. Thank you. So starting at the front, as I alluded to earlier, it's been an application between a single entity and council, and there's a business cost ratio for which we have no details as to how that was arrived, who the cost benefit ratio benefits. However, it might be pretty clear it's only one entity from that report. We've got still outstanding items as noted by Mr. Crisp of tree planting, signage and so on. We've got we're told that 105 trees need to be planted, and there's $4,000 allowed for. It's $38 per tree. It's pretty expensive. I would have thought last time I bought farm trees are $1 and a guard was 50 cents plus the cost of planting. The other issue that I have is that the real budget of this is 5.5 million or thereabouts, and we were offered gravel from Subelco and it hasn't been taken up. And now we're asking other roads to miss out, and I just don't think that is an option that we should believe is reasonable, given that there's only one entity benefiting, as is stated in this report. Most councils are probably not aware because they're new, but when VPR or Section 94 funds are collected by council, they are to be used for that purpose. However, the government changed the rules a number of years ago where you could borrow from money that's collected in one portion and do road works or other works on a road elsewhere and then repay it. And I think if we need extra money, that's where the money should come from, and it's up to staff to look at that. But it's not for other ratepayers to miss out.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery?
Can I have a question of Councillor Flannery? The aggregate that's been offered by the mine, do we have to use it on that road, or can we just take it now that we haven't taken it, because we're so short of it? Can we take it and use it elsewhere?
I would doubt they would offer it for use elsewhere. It would be my, although perhaps with the roads at BOOROWA, I would think Greymont, short of signing it into their purchase agreement with Subelco, have no obligation whatsoever, because I'd say council didn't follow up on it. But we should be looking at the paperwork and making some phone calls.
Okay, thank you. Right, we've had a fair bit of discussion. I will put those in favour of the recommender of motion.
Foreman, Flannery, Rolls, Houston, Piper, Dodd, Mackie.
Those against?
Armstrong, you four, or okay, well, you'll be against.
Well, that would be against.
Thank you.
That would be against.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on now to notice of motion, preparation 2228, preparation of a business case for the demerger of Hilltops Council. Councillor Ingram, first of all, do we have a mover?
I'll move that way, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I've had some people say that in the street that I was the last councillor they thought would put a notice of motion like this up, but the community have been talking to me in droves in recent times, and my notice of motion, and I don't want to be negative to any staff or anyone involved. I've worked as hard as anyone in the last 5 or so years to see if we can make this merger work, and this is just a very small step in a long journey, and it's a journey I believe we should start for our community. Our community are entitled to have a say in what they think and how they think it's progressing at the moment. It hurts me to say the merger has failed, and it's failed on every level. Not one of the supposed benefits that we were told or outcomes that we were told when they talked about mergers has occurred. The words they used were scale and capacity. We might have some scale, but we surely haven't got any capacity. Not one thing has improved since the 12th of May 2016. But any number of things have gone pear-shaped. Financially, we're crippled. Our levels of service are dramatically down from what they were and don't look like improving, just going on some recent events and some conversations had earlier. Customer service doesn't exist. It did take us 5 years to get a policy up, but that's about where that's at. And again, councillors, I'm not directing this at any particular or any group of staff at all. This problem with this merger, putting very simple words in my terminology, the job is too big for the staff. I feel for the staff. The 3 former councillors used to have a director for planning and a director for this and a director for that. Now we've got one and a couple of staff under them trying to do all this work, the 3 councils combined. The job is too big. So normally what would you do? You'd employ more people. But our council can't employ more people because we haven't got any money. I don't know if you've ever heard the joke about the snake and the elephant playing snooker, but you want to look it up. We've got nowhere to go. It's very unfortunate. So I think we owe it to our community to at least have a business case prepared to the Boundaries Commission just to see where it went wrong, how it's going wrong. You know, there could be some benefits come out of it. The process of the merger, as every other merged council has found along the way that have also failed, is long. You need a business case to go to the Boundaries Commission. You need the Boundaries Commission then to send it to the Minister. You need the Minister to take it on board. So it doesn't happen overnight. And at the current time, and with the current state governments in place, they haven't had any luck. But there's a very strong feeling that in March 2023 there'll be a different state government who may have a very different outlook on demerging. So I made a very conscious and thought about effort during the week about putting this notice of motion up to make sure that I can sleep at night and say at least we gave our community the opportunity that if this happens and there happens to be demergers, that we would be eligible if the business case said we should and if we thought we should. I listened to the communities in the lead up to the last election. In the small communities, they still resent Hilltops Council. They still say it was young-centric, which is the complete opposite. And the people in Young now are starting to notice the levels of service. And when they approach me about what's happening, where it's going, I said, I feel for staff, the morale's down. There's no getting out in sight. The long-term financial plan talks about more deficits. We all know the deficits we've had earlier, and in a meeting we'll have later in the month about the budget, talking about the budget deficit in the general fund coming down. Well, that's not quite right. If you take off the $1 million that we took off the depreciation number on one side, then take off the $1 million of the advanced federal assistance grant that we got, that'll blow that out to $9.5 million, I think. That's more than the general fund. And that's what you need to look at, the general fund. The other funds, you can't touch them, water and sewer. So the outlook isn't very good. So we talk about SRVs now, special rate variations. What that will mean that in 5 years' time, we all could be paying 60% at least more in our rates. Now, in the old days, special rate variations were for a purpose. I want to build X over there. Can I ask our community for more rate money for that purpose? That's what special rate variations were. Now, this special rate variations we're talking about to increase it all this, it will be just to try and keep us treading water. Status quo. It won't be to improve anything. If we're lucky, we might remain at status quo. So that's where it comes to me, and it really comes home that it's very hard. I'd never made, you know, there's been talks about demergers from day one. And the council was not here tonight, he had prior agreement, I think. But it's not emotional, and it's not because I don't want to merge. I've sat here and been on council the best part of 6 years, as I said, and been supportive every step of the way in face of everything to take on board to try and make it work. It has failed conclusively, and it's proven to me with the financials, with the work not being able to be done because we have no staff, we can't get staff, we've got no money. It's not going to work. So we need, I believe, for the sake of our community, to prepare a business case for the demerger of Hilltops Council and see where that goes from there. And as indicated in the notice of motion, I'd ask where the funding would come from. Given that we haven't got a PAMP and the footpath work hasn't been done, it definitely won't be missed from there. But I've spoken enough for the time being. I don't know whether you want to move into a committee of whole, have a discussion about it, or where you want to go with the councillors.
New councillors,
Madam Mayor, I'll move into committee, please.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into committee. We'll vote on it. All right. Those in favour of moving into it? Yeah, hold on.
Right. So we have Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Ingram, Councillor Foran, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Roll. There's majority. So
it's majority. We'll move into the committee.
For the benefit, I guess, I want to sound...
We're just checking. Well, Councillor Flannery, if you'd like to start us off, and maybe if we go around, how does that sound?
When I saw this, well, I guess initially for the benefit of a new councillors, committee of whole allows you to discuss the matters without actually having to talk to, for or against the motion. So it provides more leeway for general discussion. Look, my thoughts on this, I guess, are not dissimilar to Councillor Ingram's. When Hardin was forced to amalgamate, there's no other way of putting it, there was a lot of resentment, and for 18 months the community had no say whatsoever, and then we went to elections and they got a say, and I think there was a hope that the whole would provide a better outcome for the sum of the parts. But I think, as Councillor Ingram has said, there's no evidence of that whatsoever so far, and I don't see there being much evidence of it before for a while. The issues are, is Hardin and BOOROWA, and to a lesser extent Young, but are they sustainable as in their former councils? Certainly it's not easy to attract directors for small councils like Hardin and BOOROWA, and that's one of the key things. It's hard to get anything done if you don't have good staff. As far as the general staff go that work, and I don't mean to say this in a derogatory sense to the directors, whilst the directors are very and critically important, it's the rest of the team that are the nuts and the bolts of the organisation. And the reality is the nuts and the bolts have fallen out in the last few years. They've left the organisation sadly through dissatisfaction, and that is upsetting. It's upsetting as a councillor, it's upsetting as a community member. Hardin wouldn't have the capacity to apply for grants and do a lot of the major infrastructure builds that, and nor would Boorowa either, really, to a lesser extent, that Young may have if we were separated. But the reality is we had minimal debt. We had basically had a group that worked hard and worked together. We lived within our means. The service levels were by and large maintained. All the things that were talked about were achieved, and now they're not being achieved. We're talking about lower service levels or substantially higher rates. Now, whether we can get back to that, I really don't know. But perhaps a business case is, it's not saying we support amalgamation. It's not saying that, or de-amalgamation, sorry. It's not saying that at all. It's saying we perhaps should look at getting an outsider in and look at where we are and where we're going and whether this is ever going to work, or what are the barriers to it working. And if it's not going to work, should demerger be considered?
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Perhaps if we just move around the room, I think. Otherwise, we'll be here all night, I think. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you have any comments or?
Yeah, I do. I believe that both Councillor Ingram and Councillor Flannery have identified there are issues with the council, and we see these issues at every meeting. But to say they're just due to the amalgamation, I think is possibly simplifying the issue. But I think there are problems that we need to deal with. Now, I personally stood for election to Hilltops Council. I saw there were issues there that I could deal with, that I could bring to this quorum. I believe that we have the ability amongst the council here and the staff that I have seen to overcome the majority of the problems indicated by Councillor Ingram and Councillor Flannery. And I don't think this is the time for that. And given what we've been talking about during this meeting and previous meetings, $200,000 is a significant amount of money. So I don't believe this is the right time for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman.
Look, I did a bit of research into this because I was as to curious as to why this would come about. But I just think, look, immense time and effort has gone into the restructure. I feel an attempt to demerge would further unsettle the Hilltops community and a workforce at a time where we are actually starting to see some much needed stability. We are nearly through our 6-point plan. I think we're up to point 4 somewhere. We as a region and council are working hard on being progressive and moving forward. And I think, after being amalgamated for 6 years, a demerger would be a huge step backward for our region. Another concern is the actual cost of a business case, and do we have the resources to achieve a case? I would assume the 200,000 is an estimate, and I would possibly worry that that estimate of 200,000 would go over. If it fell over and it didn't get up, we have, handed over $200,000 for nil gain. Also, what other services get pushed aside for the $200,000? And, are there any proven benefits to actually becoming like demerging? What are the actual proven benefits, if any? And do the benefits outweigh the time, the cost, the resources, the stability? I do always agree that the community should always have their say. I mean, but I just feel like it would be very lengthy. I feel like we are about to rehire staff into the key positions that they need to be. So one would assume that services would start to improve. And I just think we have to work together and progress forward. I think the last federal election proved that we all want change and we're all happy to move forward and not backwards. And I just feel it's a huge step backwards. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Foreman. Councillor Ingram, do you want to make any more comments? You did speak quite fully before.
I'll just mention now that you brought me into it in regard to the money. the cost. It's in the notice of motion in the last paragraph. I've stated where I think the money should come from. $200,000 is a significant amount of money, you're correct, but the money is there, it's in the budget. It's allocated for the footpathing that we can't do because we haven't got a pant plan. So I'd just like to clarify that to councillors. I'm not asking to pluck $200,000, and I don't think it would cost $200,000, but pluck it out of there, it's in the budget, footpath. So I'll just touch on that point. Unstable, Councillor Tushore, you mentioned 6 years, and you're very correct, it's been 6 years. And it's been given everything it can, and it's hasn't worked.
Thank you. We might move over this table and then we'll move on to the Zoom. Councillor Hewson.
Yes, I've got a question for the General Manager. Have any councils in New South Wales demerged?
Not since the recent amalgamation. So all the amalgamations that were that occurred circa the 2016, and there's been no councils that have demerged. I know there's been some cases put before the previous Minister for local government, and they were refused.
I think it's, I can understand where you're coming from, Councillor Ingram and Flannery, but given that no councils have been given the okay to demerge, I think you're tooling at windmills. It's just not going to happen. The government won't allow it. And that's all I'm going to cast my vote on, because I don't think it's a wasted effort.
Thanks, Councillor Hewson. Can I just, before you go, talking about who's put a business case at the moment, Cootamundra Gundagai have a business case in before the Minister, and the cost of that was $260,000. Whether something to consider in considering this motion, are we more sensible not even to consider it until we know the outcome of that? Because otherwise we know for sure, are we going to lose that money, or, are we not? But that's just a point that I throw in before I move to Councillor Piper.
Question of anyone, I don't care. Can BOOROWA come and join you, or can BOOROWA come and join you? Because we can't do anything over there. The previous council fed a lot of false figures to BOOROWA, and we could not support ourselves one iota. The other thing is, it's just been pointed out, there have been a lot of councils that thought they would be better off, or are still trying to be better off by demerging, and no one has been successful yet. Other than that, would it hurt us to investigate it, except for the actual cost that it's going to cost us? Because there are people that still want to demerger over in BOOROWA, but basically they were, as I said, fed false information on figures that they believed they had, and they never had them.
Thank you, Councillor Piper. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you. I don't think it's the time to do this at the moment. Firstly, I attended most of the recent council community workshops. There was lots of roads, there was lots of garbage, and it was interesting that the demerger wasn't mentioned, and at previous things I've been to, it has been mentioned, mostly with the I wish we'd never done this, but we're here now, we need to move forward. I think if we go back, we'd be too small. And to have a voice heard, we need to be bigger. We need to be part of regional organisations. And as an aside, wouldn't it be better to send one delegate from Hilltops Council than 3 delegates from 3 different councils? So you're immediately putting the costs up. We have to have a voice. There is limited funding. And I think we need to be at least as big as Hilltops to be able to have that voice. We have a committed general manager. He's been here for a while now. He has a strong financial background. We need to give this new workplace structure some time and see what cost savings it delivers, but we do need to give it time. Part of our CSP is for a robust economy, and that's more easily achieved by being a larger organisation, by working together, by pooling talent and facilities and infrastructures. We're living in a post-pandemic world. New South Wales has had major natural disasters in the last few years. We don't know how the previous councils would have been going, but we know that they too would have struggled. And we can't compare Hilltops now, after all the upheavals that have happened, to the very different world over 6 years ago. If there are any issues, and there are obviously issues, I don't believe they are a result of the merger, and so I don't think that a demerger will fix them. The recent federal elections have shown us that people want collaboration and commitment and constructive progress. We have other things to spend the $200,000 on, even if it's not footpaths. And I don't think we can go back. We can't live in the past, and we must move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Dodd. If we move on, Councillor Mackie and then Councillor Armstrong.
My consideration really is that, and I'm not sure really, I'll fall on my sword, I don't know a hell of a lot. I thought the process was to 10 years. So us sitting at 6 years and looking and seeing if it has worked, it's a little bit premature. I'm with Mary that I do have great faith in our General Manager, and I think he's doing a great job. I also think that in the last couple of years, they've been incredible. You know, you talk about change, you know, you throw a pandemic in there and we were categorised as an area of, give me a word, you know, we come under a lot of weather. You know, we were actually categorised as a
disaster area.
A disaster area. Okay. So, you know, considering we haven't had a good run, we have had a lot against us. Talking only yesterday when we looked at council employees off with COVID, for example. So, you know, when you want to run your trucks, you can't because you haven't got the workers. It's not because they're not employed. It's just that they're off. They're off with COVID. So, I mean, I think we've had a lot of things thrown at us. When I talk to a lot of people and they talk about the old days, well, you know, often the old days weren't as good as we think they were. I mean, I've got great faith in what we can do as an amalgamated council, but as I say, I stand here with little, really probably little skill and background, but I feel that we've got a great future as an amalgamated Hilltops council.
Thank you. And Councillor Armstrong, your comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to read from the LKS KRO report, which for the benefit of council was a report that, commissioned jointly by the New South Wales Government, BOOROWA Shire Council, Harden Shire Council and Young Shire Council. Now, I'll disclose that at that time I was the Director of Corporate Services for Young Shire Council, and I was charged with writing the business case against merger. Some of that had to change because council at the last minute decided they're in favour of merger. So I won't go into that. But this is what the LKS KRO report says on page 1. A merger of the councils with a full or just administrative brings about financial viability, leading to ongoing sustainability at the end of an assumed 5-year transition and implementation period. Without any substantial changes in policy, solid operating surpluses can be achieved, which will give councils choices about the expenditure of the released funds. For example, maintaining employment through the provision of more services, achieving higher service standards, repayment of debt, and addressing the asset renewal backlog could be considered. Now, councillors, the exact opposite has occurred. Financial sustainability is a significant issue. In the first year of a merged council, there was an operating loss of almost $17 million. Now, that loss is greater than the entire operating budget of BOOROWA Shire Council, greater than the entire operating budget of Hardin Shire Council. So I think, and ongoing losses, continuing losses since that time up to about $10 million. So we're about $50 million behind the wagon to start with. At the end of an assumed 5-year transition and implementation period. Now, I note the conversation about 10 years, and I guess, yes, that probably seemed like a good time, but I really think that the report was saying at the end of 5 years, we should be right. We're not. We've got forecast deficits. If you look at the 10-year financial plan, we've got forecast deficits that accumulate a value of about $74 million. We can't afford $74 million in losses over the next 10 years. Now, I look back at the operating deficits of the former Boorowa and Hardin Shires and the operating surplus of Young Shire, and I say to myself, well, they might have been losing a bit of money, but they're not losing anywhere near $16.9 million or $10 million or even $4 million. So Hilltops combined is in a far more precarious financial position in terms of sustainability than either of any of the three councils. We have seen variations in service levels, and there is significant discussion in the communities, whether we like to hear it or not, or whether people like to bring them up at community meetings. But the service levels have changed; they've dropped. There have been some new services that have moved from town to town, and that's great. But the reality of it is, those services have a cost, and I just think that if 200 grand's a lot of money, but by the same token, spending 200 grand without a plan just doesn't make sense to me. And we've got $1 million to spend over 5 years without a plan when it comes to foot paving. I'm happy to see $200,000 go into an assessment of where we are after 5 years or 6 years, because I'll be quite truthful. If we think that it's been a success, if we agree with those words that I've just read out of the LKS Carer report, then quite simply we are delusional. We need a reality check. A reality check is going to cost us. There's no two ways about that, but I think we need it. And I think that this is the only way that we can get that reality check. Because in 2 years' time, 2 years and 3 months, when the next elections come round and special rate variations are starting to bite home, and the people that are paying $20,000 for rates are now paying $30,000 for rates, they'll bite at the ballot box. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. I have stayed relatively silent on this. I will just say that I was elected for both terms as a Hilltops councillor. I have lived in 2 shires, if you like, in the Hardin and also in the Young Shire. As a person who has done both, have I noticed any difference in my lifestyle because of amalgamation? No. I asked that question to a group of young people on Saturday, young parents with their children, all of them looking to the future, not wanting to go back, saying their lifestyle is progressing in Hilltops. I feel for them as I push 3 little angels on area without footpaths. For them, they would certainly see the value in that $200,000, either going to a PAMP policy or to footpaths. Even if we say we move that $200,000, it's still $200,000 extra that we're going to be spending. I'd also like to say that recently I was at Broken Hill, And there in the visitor centre was a booklet that said Hilltops. So here we were as a region able to market ourselves. The marketing side and the tourist side of Hilltops, I think, has been exceptional. At a conference at which I represented you, all of you, at the Australian Local Government Association conference, the financial problems that we have and that we would have if we were to regress back into our single 3 councils are shared by everybody. One of the speakers made the point that we have to be careful that we don't become too insular, that we have to look support even outside our LGAs. We're still only 19,000, which puts us still in the rural. If we can get to the regional, I feel it will make a difference. I would also like to say that I think the work that the staff has been doing has been exceptional. We don't see all the policy reviews that have taken place. We don't see all the work of harmonisation that has taken place. And I certainly am learning, I don't understand completely, but our capacity even to borrow or to promote, to attract contractors to this area increase exponentially. I think we saw that in the bridges, where we were able to put out that tender that covered all our areas. And I will just say that I was elected as a Hilltops councillor, and as far as I'm concerned, I remain a Hilltops councillor. So if we have had this discussion...
respond to a couple of points, Madam Mayor?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
And then I think it might be almost time for us to conclude this, and we'll move out of committee.
And thanks, councillors, for their points. Just a couple of little things I point out, Councillor Dodden, and yes, you're right. They told me bigger is better. Get bigger, it'll be better. Mary, give me some benefit for the last 6, actually I'll go back to 2012, 10 years that I've been on council. I can assure you it was much better then. We're not turning back the clock, councillors, and saying let's not regress and go back. If back was better than now, I'd be there any day. But they were the promises and part of the spiel that was given to me at the time. When I think Councillor Armstrong might have mentioned it was just about the vote of the former young council to say, no, we don't want anything to do with this, we can see problems here. And someone propped up an idea, and my deputy at the time and I thought, oh yeah, we can do this and benefit the smaller community, we'll do this. And we changed our vote. And I don't think it mattered our vote, because I'm pretty sure the state government were going to merge us anyway, because they had their crew ready to take over. And that was proven on the 12th of May 2016. I was in Parliament House in Sydney when it happened. The other point about small councils and being small, I'd point to a couple of examples very, very close to us. Although I mentioned council, but Weddon's had a bit of turmoil, but Weddon seemed to do very well on this side, and as Councillor Flannery's pointed out numerous times, Temora, just on the other side, seemed to flourish. So small councils can do and do a great business. The idea of talking because other local government areas, Madam Mayor, are struggling with the same financial troubles and the same problems is like saying, oh, my neighbour's gone bankrupt, but I'm going to go bankrupt with him. Now, that attitude of sitting just because they're having trouble means we've got to have trouble, that's not a valid reason to not want to have some change. The Councillor Armstrong mentioned the deficits, and the Councillor mentioned about the 10 years. I think it was been pointed out, I don't think we can get to 10 years. All our reserves are gone. The reserves we had have been eaten up in that time. The reserves just aren't there. We talked about, and a couple of councillors mentioned, change of government at a federal level, and we'll be better off apparently. Well, let's see about that. But my point was, I feel there'll be a change of state government in March 23. To Councillor Hewson's point about the councils that have applied to and tried to be demerged currently have faced a no by the state government that was in power when they happened. And I can understand that. But there's a strong feeling when state government changes, that policy will be different. They will look at councils that want to demerge, stand on their own feet quite favourably, so I am told. So people say, oh, so you're told. Do you believe that? Well, I believed everything the other state government told me when they talked about merging, so it would be only fair to give the other side their opportunity. But look, I thank everyone for the debate. The cost, 200,000 I mentioned, I just want to make it clear to people, said defer the footpath works. I didn't say wipe it out, defer it for 1 year while we get together a PAMP, which we had 60,000 to do, which we haven't got now, and we're told it couldn't be done for 60,000, but so we know when we go to spend the money on footpaths, we'll have some plan in place. It's not creating an extra cost, it's money that's in the budget. And if it was to be overrun, well, we could probably take, I don't mean to be flippant, but we could use some of the funds out of the unused funds from the gravel reshooting in the former Young area to cover the extra. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Now, I need a motion. So
Madam Mayor, could I just make
one last
comment?
One short last comment.
I have in my hands the Shire Council Resourcing Plan from 2012 to 2022. So this was written 10 years ago. It just happens to be the year that it was due to terminate or expire. And when you look through the estimate of figures spent here, from a Shire perspective, just about every number in here, whether it's gravel reshooting, black spot, bridge, culvert, all of them, we're spending less now than we forecast 10 years ago. And I think that, and we're not going to spend any more money. And I think we need, as a minimum, just to review where we're at.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Now, I need somebody to move a motion that we move out of committee. Councillor Dodd and Councillor Fitzgerald. Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. Righto. We're back on air. And we're back to motion 2228, motion preparation of a business case.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Did I just hear that live streaming was off while we were in committee?
No. Sorry. Sorry, you fell. Okay.
Didn't move. Councillor.
No.
Madam Mayor said we're right to go, and I thought, hello.
Well,
We're right now to debate.
we're right. We're right there. All right. So we're back to 2228, and we have the motion in front of us. Do we have a mover? Oh, we have a mover, and we have had a mover and a seconder. Councillor Ingram, it was
The beauty of being in committee.
Your
I
motion?
think it's all been said. And
Okay.
There's nothing else to say. I think it's
Thank you.
put the motion, Madam Mayor. But I'd just like to thank councillors for their input. And as I said, it wasn't a notice of motion that came from nowhere one night. It came from a lot of serious thought and a real concern for our community to be able to have a say. So thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate your concerns. We do. I will put it to vote. Those in favour?
Councillor Ingram, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Armstrong,
Those against?
Councillor Foreman, Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Rolls, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Piper, Councillor Dodd, Councillor Mackie.
Okay, thank you. The motion is lost. All right, next, confidential matters. So I need a mover that we move into confidential. Thank you. Thank you. All those in favour? Pardon me. Yeah, yes. All right, so be it. Difficulties. So in the meantime, can I thank? We're right. Okay, Mr. General Manager, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, whilst in confidential, there was 15.222/30 award of contract RFT 616 of 2022, purchase and removal of scrap metal. Council resolved that A, it receive and note the report on RFT 616 of 2020, purchase and removal of scrap metal. B, appoint the successful panellists to the panel for the contract 616 of 2022, purchase and removal of scrap metal. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding of this contract. Also in confidential, council has considered report 15.3, 2022/31 request for tender RFT 60T of 2022 Murrumburrah Precinct project. Council resolved that A, receive and note the report on RFT 602 of 2022 Murrumburrah Precinct project. B, decline all tenders for RFT 602 of 2022 Murrumburrah Precinct project. C, enter into negotiations with the preferred tenderer in accordance with clause 1783E of the Local Government General Regulations 2021 to revise the scope of works as per the preferred option 2 for RFT 602 of 2022 Murrumburrah Precinct project to align to the available budget allocation with a view of entering into a contract. And D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. And thank you, councillors, for your input in what has been a big meeting and a fairly long meeting. So thank you very much, as always, for your input on what you are doing for our beautiful Hilltops region. So thank you and good night to everybody.
Close that.